Anybody? 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 Okay. Okay, are we broadcasting at all? Hold on. Let's see if we're live anywhere. We just crashed. And looks like Chris can see us. That's good. Periscope, you're there. Twitter, you're there. Okay, good. We were watching the press conference. We are going to watch it again. I went back about 30 seconds. And looks like Chris. So hopefully... Okay, so hopefully we're back. Here we go. Good to see everybody. Welcome back. I plugged myself. I hardwired to the router, so we should be good now. Here we go.
That could have been not filled out properly.
By the way, for those, welcome to the live stream. I'm Kevin Williams. Rudy Kaludi is right now giving a press conference on the ballot, explaining how ballots work, mail-in ballots, and he's doing a great job of it because he is a torn piece of paper as the actual ballot.
That could have been the same person 30 times. That could have been, and all these things have happened, by the way. That could have been nothing filled out. We never know. So, for example, the recount being done in Georgia will tell us nothing because these fraudulent ballots will just be counted again because they wouldn't supply the signatures to match.
No, because you here in the United States, because it's a democracy, once that signature is verified, and in some states you don't even have to verify the signature, the bottom line is it's really, really difficult to fake a mail-in ballot and to do it en masse so that whatever you have to do in order to steal somebody's identity, then request a ballot without being detected, then steal it from their mailbox without being detected, and then fill it out and send it back in and hope that the signature matches somehow. If there's signature matching, which is in Georgia, there is signature matching, you'd have to do that then 14,000 times or 89,000 times in Pennsylvania or whatever. You'd have to repeat that process of 5 years in jail per vote, risking 5 years in jail per vote 14,000 times. And you would have to know exactly how many votes you're going to have to cast illegally in order to win. You would have to know all of that. On YouTube, hold on, I think we're on YouTube. Yeah, it is live on YouTube, so we are broadcasting on YouTube. Technical difficulties, if you can't find it, you can't. That's Jenna Ellis behind him. That's one of Trump's personal attorneys. Or discount Drew Barrymore.
Ballots. So it means nothing to have counted these ballots because, for example, in Pennsylvania, where we have probably...
It doesn't mean nothing to have counted the ballot. It's called a fucking election. That's how it works. You count the ballots, Rudy.
Most precise evidence, 682,770 of these ballots were...
All of the election! All of the election is void! That's what they're trying to do. The Republicans actually tried and failed to stop Pennsylvania from submitting any results of the election. They wanted to completely disenfranchise the entire state of Pennsylvania. That is what they tried to do in court. Rudy, go ahead. There's his ballot. In case you're watching on your phone, this is what he's holding up. He's holding up this little piece of paper. This is his evidence. He's pretty. He's pretty. This is the dream team. Nightmare, but this is the dream team that Trump has.
Cast, put in, and they weren't inspected, which renders them ballots that are null and void, cannot be counted, have to be removed from the vote. Why? For several reasons, not the least of which is that was basically only one of two places in the state where it was done. So in the other parts of the state, there was a legitimate inspection of the ballots. So if you have two different standards in different parts of the state, one favoring one part of the state, the other disfavoring the other part of the state, that's a classic violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution.
You could use that same argument against the Electoral College. So
Bush.
You could use it state versus state. Doesn't even have to be Electoral College. You could use it county versus county. If two different counties have to... No, you're not going to use the 14th Amendment against the vote.
Bush v. Gore being the most recent case that teaches that. That's not the only fraud that went on in Pennsylvania. All of the other frauds carried out in the other states by the Democrat bosses happened there as well. For example, if you made a mistake in that ballot and you lived in Philadelphia or in Pittsburgh, you were allowed to fix the mistake.
Yeah.
But if you lived in what would be considered more Republican or Trump parts of the state, you were given no such right.
Not true. Not true at all. Everyone had that right. Absolutely everybody in Pennsylvania could cure their ballot. That's fact.
Our plaintiff, Mr. Henry, cast a absentee ballot, and he failed to put it in the secure envelope inside.
Yeah.
He just put it in open, naked.
Right. Which was a huge issue that the Democrats said, let's not have the security envelope thing going on right now because it's just going to complicate things and thousands of people are going to be disenfranchised. And the Republicans said, no, we have to have the security envelope. The vote is a secret. You must have the security envelope. Now here's Rudy going, the votes have to be the signature.
That ballot was cast aside because it was invalid, because that breaks the privacy of the vote. In Pittsburgh and in Philadelphia,
now here's
if they
Rudy
noticed
going,
that there wasn't an ink envelope, they contact the voter and allow him to vote again.
Sorry.
Or if he didn't fill it out completely, or if he made a mistake and didn't sign his full name, he was allowed to cure it. There is no such provision under the law of Pennsylvania. The Democrat Secretary of State made that up in order to maximize the votes in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and to minimize the votes in the other parts of the state. Clearly illegal, clearly voter fraud, easily provable. Hundreds of witnesses. He made a mistake and didn't sign his full name. He was allowed to cure. There is no such provision under the law of Pennsylvania.
Hold on. Something is playing and I'm trying to stop it.
The Democrat Secretary of State made that up.
Stop. Why? Okay, here we go.
To give you another example, we have 17,000 provisional ballots cast in Pittsburgh. Do you know what a provisional ballot is? Provisional ballot usually happens this way, and about 15 of the 17,000 happen this way. You walk in and you say, I'm here to vote today. Oh, Mr. Giuliani, you already voted. I did? I don't remember voting. Oh, yes, you cast an absentee ballot. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. So why does that happen?
That's actually completely
Pittsburgh.
believable scenario.
People walked in thinking actually 15,000 to be precise. Why did it happen 15,000 times that people in Pittsburgh walked in to vote and they had already voted according to the Democrat election machine? Did they forget? That many people with bad memories in Pittsburgh? Or is the following correct? That as witnesses will testify, they were instructed by the Democrat bosses when they had a ballot in which there was no one registered, just assign it to somebody. Just assign it to Rudy Giuliani. So when Rudy Giuliani won't show up to vote. And if he does show up to vote, we'll give him a provisional ballot. That is what we call circumstantial evidence of the fraud. The direct evidence of the fraud are the people who will testify that, in fact, that's what happened to them. As well as it to somebody. The 50 to 60 witnesses we have for the way they were treated and not allowed to inspect the ballots. They weren't just not allowed to do it. They were pushed. A few cases they were assaulted. In all cases, they were put in a corral so far away, probably the closest they got is from here to the back of that room. We could do like did you all watch My Cousin Vinny? You know the movie? It's one of my favorite law movies because he comes from Brooklyn. And when the nice lady who said she saw, and then he says to her, how many fingers do I got up? And she says, 3. Well, she was too far away to see it was only 2. These people were further away than my cousin Vinny was from the witness. They couldn't see a thing. Now, I don't know. You're going to tell me that 60 people are lying? They didn't just tell me this. They swore under penalty of perjury, which is something no Democrat's ever done. You don't even ask Biden about this.
They just wanted to see a Dira, a cute baby Dira.
You don't put him under penalty of perjury. He doesn't even get asked questions about it. He doesn't get asked questions about all the evidence of the crimes that he committed. These people are under penalty of perjury. Their names are on an affidavit. They swear that they weren't allowed to carry out their function as inspectors. And it's not just a technical thing. There's a reason they did it. Why would you not allow people to carry out the function they've been allowed to do for 50 years, 60 years? Why wouldn't you allow inspections of those ballots? Because you knew you were going to use those ballots to catch Biden up. And you had a big road ahead of you. You had to catch him up for 700,000 to 800,000 votes that he was behind. And the only way you were going to do it was with the mail-in ballots. You couldn't have a Democrat and Republican inspector around. They don't even have Democrats watching, because they'd be afraid that there'd be honest Democrats who would say, you're cheating. So that takes us to Michigan, where there was an honest Democrat who said they were cheating. And we'll show you her affidavit, because I know you keep reporting falsely that we have no evidence, that we have no specific acts of fraud. That's because the coverage of this has been almost as dishonest as the scheme itself. The American people are entitled to know this. You don't have a right to keep it from them. You don't have a right to lie about it. And you are. I mean, you don't report to them that a citizen of this country, a very fine woman, who is willing to allow me to give you her name. I can't give you all these affidavits, because if I do, these people will be harassed. They'll be threatened. They may lose their job. They will lose their friends. We've lost lawyers in this case because they've been threatened. We've had lawyers
somebody's losing their friends. Overturn the election.
Need protection. What's going on in this country is horrible.
Oh, boy, it is.
And the censorship that you're imposing is making it worse.
That is true.
But Jessie Jacob is an adult citizen and a resident of the state of Michigan. She's been an employee of the city of Detroit for decades. I know her age, but she can tell you her age. She was assigned to voting duties in September.
I hope this is the Dominion lady.
She was trained by the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan. She was basically trained to cheat. She said that I was instructed by my supervisor to adjust the mailing date of these absentee ballot packages to be dated earlier than when they were actually sent in. The supervisor made that announcement for all workers to engage in that fraudulent practice.
And yet one of them claims this, and of course that at the facility itself, the post office has investigated this, and that's not true.
It's not me saying that. That's just American citizens saying that under oath. I don't know. Maybe you could say she's lying, but you can't say there's no evidence. This is what we call evidence. This is direct evidence.
That's actually not. How can he be a lawyer?
That's circumstantial. I tried many cases, as did all my colleagues here. You put a witness on a witness stand, witnesses testifying to their own knowledge. This witness goes on the witness stand and she will say, I was told to adjust it.
Yes, and then let's have a cross-examination, and let's have the people accused of telling her to cheat in an election. Let's have them as well.
The date. on the absentee ballots. I witnessed election workers and employees going over to the voting booths with voters in order to watch them vote and coach them for whom to vote. Completely illegal. She will testify to that. I don't know. Biden's people can cross-examine her, but you can't just throw it away. Gee, there's no evidence.
Reminder: they're 25 losses now. Their losses. Their losses in court are at 25 right now. Could be 26 or 27 by the time we finish the broadcast. I don't know. Could have been updated. I heard this early this morning.
Next time you say that, you'll be lying, because there is evidence. This. Oh, by the way, this is public. You can all get it.
Yeah,
it's
no,
attached to the complaint in.
Right. And so she says the one thing, and everybody else that she accuses of doing something bad says, well, no. And of the 254 pages of affidavits in Michigan, in the one county that they presented, there's no actual hard evidence. It's just people saying that this happened, a lot of which has nothing to do with voter fraud. Are they 29 losses now? I don't even know. The bottom line is they're working up a deficit of losses.
Costantino versus the
Someone said you're stupid, but they didn't understand that your is you are. It's two words. You have to put them together, use a sky. Anyway.
City of Detroit.
I love irony.
Then she was instructed by my supervisor not to ask for a driver's license or any photo ID when a person was trying to vote. Don't ask for identification. Why would you not ask for identification? Because you knew that a lot of people not entitled to vote were going to come in and early vote. Because you knew that illegal immigrants were going to be allowed to vote. You knew, if you lived in Philadelphia, unless you're stunad, that's an Italian expression for stupid, unless you're stupid, you knew that a lot of people were coming over from Camden to vote. They do every year. Happens all the time in Philly. It's about as frequent as getting beaten up at a Philadelphia Eagle football game. Happens all the time. All the time.
Does he get beaten up at football games a lot? Usually, I abhor violence of any kind.
And it's allowed to happen because it is a Democrat, corrupt city. And has been for years. Many, many years. And they carried it out in places they could get away with it. They didn't carry it out in neutral places. They didn't carry it out in Republican places. They didn't carry it out where the law is respected. They carried it out in a corrupt city where the district attorney releases criminals en masse, which is why it has so much crime. She also said, I observed a large number of people who came to the satellite location to vote in person, but they had already applied for and submitted an absentee ballot. So she observed a lot of people voting twice.
In which case, the one ballot will count and the other won't count. That's how it works. The system knows.
Again,
That's what provisional ballots are for. I don't know if anybody ever received my mail-in ballot. Oh, okay, we'll fill out this provisional ballot, and if the mail-in ballot gets there, every state's a little bit different, but in Pennsylvania, if your vote gets there, then the provisional ballot won't count because your first vote will count. David says, and yet Trump carried Pennsylvania by a narrow margin in 2016. How did that happen if Democrats can change voter tallies at will? Because they didn't have the Canadians on board and the Spanish and the German server, which is controlled by Brazil and Venezuela. Boom.
Jesse Jacob, not me. I was instructed not to invalidate any ballots and not to look for any deficiency in the ballots. Why would you do that? Because you're cheating. On purpose cheating. Intentionally cheating. You're cheating as a institution. This is an instruction from the election commissioner or the employer to the worker.
Well, are we talking about the ballots or the signature envelopes? What are we talking about there? That has to be very specific.
Don't look for any deficiencies in the ballots. I was instructed not to look at any of the signatures on the absentee ballots. If she was instructed not to look for any of the signatures on the absentee ballots, why the heck do you sign it in the first place? In order to identify it. She was instructed not to.
So more than 1/3 of the states don't require signatures in order to. You can't be rejected. Your ballot will not be rejected because of your signature. 38% of the states are that way.
Do that because many of the absentee ballots were fraudulent.
You have to sign when first you have to register to vote. You have to signature there. You have to sign when you apply for your absentee ballot. So you've already done that twice. Then you sign your envelope a third time, and that gets either verified, or in the case of Pennsylvania, they don't. It's not really verified. They look at it and say, yeah, okay, but they don't reject the ballot based solely on that. But I'll look up Michigan right now.
And they knew that. And they didn't want to have a count to that. On November 4, 2020, I was instructed to improperly predate the absentee ballots when the receipt date was actually was after November 3rd, 2020. Now, this is really significant because Justice Alito of the Supreme Court instructed Pennsylvania that any ballot that comes in after 8 o'clock on November 3rd, 2020, had to be put aside and not opened because there's a question as to its.
Okay, Michigan, you do have to sign your ballot. Michigan's one of those states, but you also have the opportunity to cure your ballot. So if it does not match your signature in the qualified voter file, state law now requires clerks to contact voters who submit an absentee ballot application or absentee ballot without a matching signature within 48 hours of receipt of that ballot, and the voters have a chance to cure it or go fill out a provisional ballot in person.
Legality and its constitutionality. What she's telling you is that they blatantly disregarded that order. That they took ballots that were marked the 4th and the 5th and the 6th, and they marked it down for the 3rd in blatant disregard of the order of the United States Supreme Court. This is I don't know if she's a Democrat or Republican. I assume if she's working for the, I assume.
If that's the case, if that can be proven in a court of law, Biden still wins the election.
She's working for the city of Detroit, that she's a Democrat. I assume, but I may be wrong. She's a citizen. I've never met her, never coached her. And I'd like you to note.
He's assuming that just because someone works for the city that they're a Democrat. That's his assumption. We're a country pretty evenly divided, but just because of her zip code, he's assuming that she's a Democrat.
That it's signed.
Oh, good. Hold on. He's going to turn it around so we can all read it.
Under penalties of perjury.
Yeah.
We have 100 more of these. I can't.
He also signed under penalty of perjury that he had the right to practice law in the District of Columbia, and he hadn't paid his dues with the Bar Association, so he was suspended in the District of Columbia. Signed that under penalty of perjury just last week. Under penalty of perjury.
I can't show them to you because those people don't want to be harassed. They don't want to have their lives torn apart by the goons on the other side. Mm-hmm. We don't do that to them.
Mm-hmm. Really? Really? Because I receive death threats on a regular basis. You're exactly why the Second Amendment was usually spelling amendment incorrectly. If you're watching and you want to send me a threat, just say 2A. I know what it means. Second Amendment, okay? So it's a lot easier to spell.
We've done that to a lot of our people. They've done it for 4 years. And it's outrageous that it's tolerated, and it's tolerated because you condone it in the press.
Hit the mic with the paper.
And you don't condemn it. And it shouldn't happen to a Republican.
It's the press's fault. He's saying that the press doesn't condemn death threats. That's what he's saying.
Or a Democrat. A lawyer shouldn't have to withdraw from a case because he's representing the President of the United States.
Oh, now he's got a problem with the Lincoln Project. By the way, the Lincoln Project is not the press.
There are many more affidavits here. I'd like to read them all to you, but I don't have the time. You should have had the time and energy to go look for them. That's your job.
Look at some of them. Yeah.
Like it's my job to defend the president.
Right.
and to represent the president.
And yesterday in court, he said to the judge, this is not a fraud case.
It's your job to read these things and not falsely report that there's no evidence.
Yeah.
Do you know how many affidavits we have in the Michigan case?
How many?
220 affidavits.
Woo!
They're not all public, but 8 of them are. 4 affiants here. Those are people who give affidavits. Report
220. They're not all public, but 8 of them are. Okay.
an incident.
I've seen more than 8, so I'm not. He might be talking about different counties.
That under any other circumstances would have been on the front page of all your newspapers if it didn't involve the hatred that you have, irrational, pathological hatred that you have for the president. What they swear to is that at 4:30 in the morning, a truck pulled up to the Detroit Center where they were counting ballots.
Yes.
The people thought it was food.
Do you guys want to interrupt this? And we're behind right now anyway. Do we all want to watch the testimony of the genius who was talking about the food trucks? Okay. If you guys want to watch, we'll watch it. Otherwise, we'll keep going with this. We can watch it after.
So they all ran to the truck. It wasn't food. It was thousands and thousands of ballots. And the ballots were in garbage cans. They were in paper bags. They were in cardboard boxes. And they were taken into the center. They were put on a number of tables. At that time, they thought all the Republican inspectors had left. All but 2 had. And an employee of Dominion.
Whoa, hold on. So you're saying that there were Republican investigators in the room after testifying that the Republicans were not allowed in the room. You just said that at 3:30 in the morning or 4:30 in the morning or whenever this magical non-food truck arrived, that there were 2 Republican investigators in the room. Make a choice. Pick a lane. New York Times, Trump's false claims that voter fraud denied him re-election are causing escalating confrontations in swing states across the country, leading to threats of violence against state officials. The Secretary of State for Georgia, a Republican, is receiving death threats. A Republican.
Who we will address a little bit later, Dominion. And here's what they jointly swear to. That every ballot that they...
But maybe at the end, this could go on for a while. Let's see if it's still... Let's see. The system's not letting me look at it. So we'll go on. And then if we want to come back and watch some of the... it's a whole other broadcast to watch the Dominion lady who doesn't know what the word discard means.
Could see everything they could hear. These were ballots for Biden. When they saw a ballot, these were ballots.
They couldn't see anything. They were a football field away, but they could see they were ballots for Biden.
Only for Biden. I mean,
that's the lady that she's talking about. She could hardly see any ballots, but all of them she saw were for Biden. Therefore, all the ballots were for Biden, even though the count came out of that room and there were votes for Trump. But since she never saw any votes for Trump, that's fraud. She was also not allowed to stand directly over so she could see the names, but the ones that she did see, only Biden.
There was no down ticket, just Biden. Many of them didn't have anything on the outer envelope because these ballots were produced very quickly, very swiftly, and they're estimated to be a minimum of 60,000, maximum of 100,000. Many of them were triple counted, which means they were put into the counting machine this way. Once, twice, 3 times.
Yeah. As is procedure with the Dominion machines, as the Dominion lady explains.
I didn't see that. I don't know that, but for the fact that 3 American citizens are willing to swear to it.
Right. When the batch fails, you rescan it, and you find the bad ballot, and you put it on top, because that increases the chance that it gets scanned properly. That's procedure. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That is not voter fraud.
And we're not going to let them go to court and do that?
Because it's once twice, 3 times for Biden.
We're going to let this election
That's not my joke. If you're not watching the chat, that's Leslie in... No. Lizzie and Leslie both had the same joke.
go by when there are, in this case, 60 witnesses
Yeah.
that can prove what I'm saying to you and other acts of fraud in Michigan? I mean, what's happened to this country? If we're going
60 witnesses, but there's 220 affidavits for some reason? Wait, are the witnesses affidavitting twice?
to let that happen. What happened to this country if we're going to cover that up? We let Al Gore carry on.
Tell you what, let's make a deal right now. We give you guys Michigan, we call it a day. We're done with the election. How about that? Should we do that?
On an election dispute longer than this one has been going on for one state and for Chad's. This happened in
Wait, I thought we banned Chad.
Pennsylvania. It happened in Michigan. Michigan probably right now, if I count up the affidavits,
Yeah.
just
You just told us there were 220.
one case alone, Trump v. Benson, a case that we dismissed today because that case was attempting to get the Wayne County Board of Supervisors to decertify. Well, they did. They decertified. That case
They didn't decertify, they certified, and then they voted not to certify, and then they voted to certify. So it's been taken care of. And if Rudy hits the mic another time.
case has 100 affidavits. And the 100 affidavits show
It's a good point, Lizzie. They don't dismiss. I'm not a lawyer, but I have played one on TV. I think it was just a corporate video. But no, you don't dismiss your own case.
essentially what I've talked to you about. Counting ballots improperly, counting them 3 and 4 times, having people vote 3 and 4 times, changing and backdating ballots to the point of at least 300,000 illegitimate ballots that we can specifically identify. The margin in Michigan was 146,121, and these ballots were all cast basically in Detroit.
A quick note there, fact-checking myself. Apparently you can file a motion to dismiss if you're the plaintiff, which is just usually the defendants that do that. And it's the judge that actually dismisses them. So I'm still going to say I'm correct on that because the judge has to dismiss. You have to file a motion to dismiss.
That Biden won 80-20. So you see a change as a result of the election in Michigan if you take out Wayne County. So it's a very significant case. That is being raised in the case of Costantino versus the city of Detroit. Not by us, but by an individual plaintiff. We are helping and assisting in that case, however. And you can find all the affidavits that you want filed in that case. And you can find out they're not just allegations, they're allegations supported by sworn testimony, which is a lot better than Joe Biden has ever done on anything. He doesn't answer questions, much less give you sworn affidavits. Wisconsin.
It's one thing to hit the mic when you're holding up a whole bunch of papers and you're back up because it's the distance. When you keep hitting the mic with your finger, that's connected to the end of your hand. Fact check. True.
At a very small margin. 20.
I don't know if it's ringing in your ears when I tap my own mic. I don't know, and I apologize if I'm doing that. It should just be a thumping sound, I hope.
3,544 last time I looked. In Wisconsin, without going into great detail, very similar plan. Republicans shut out in the city of Milwaukee and also in Madison. Republicans almost uniformly shut out from the absentee process, not allowed to inspect, not allowed to look at the ballots. We have in Milwaukee and in the state of Wisconsin a much stricter law.
I was checking something else, but if he's talking about Pennsylvania, no. In court, they've said that, no, they were in the room. And he just said in Michigan, there were 2 inspectors in the room. You're not allowed to look at the actual votes because the votes, when you're separating, there's several different layers of, anyway. Just like, I'm not even going to bother.
Wisconsin doesn't allow mail-in ballots. They didn't buy into the big mail-in ballot situation. Wisconsin.
Wisconsin allows absentee ballots.
Listen, when you look at their constitution,
Okay, everybody, welcome to Wisconsin. No one in the military gets to vote.
almost seems to not.
She lives in Wisconsin since she was 12. She was born in New York City, in the Bronx, which explains the way that she says vote. The rest of it was...
Like absentee ballots. They state it's not a right, a privilege. And they have very, very strict procedures. And the strict procedure says that you can't be given an absentee ballot. You have to personally apply for it. It's illegal, basically, to solicit a vote. And they have actually many reasons for it. That probably goes back to their
When you say it's illegal, basically, that means it's not illegal.
progressive days. When I say progressive, I mean late 19th century, early 20th century progressive, when that really meant progressive, not retrogressive. So there are 60,000 ballots in Milwaukee County and 40,000 ballots in Madison that, as far as we can tell, and this is why we're auditing, because we have very good information, the numbers are going to come out about here, that don't have applications. Under the law of the state of Wisconsin, already decided, if there's no application for an absentee ballot, the absentee ballot is thrown away.
Okay. Well, let's see what happens.
This all happened in two places in Wisconsin. Didn't happen in northern Wisconsin. Didn't happen in Republican Wisconsin.
Really? Do you know that? Can you tell that without paying for the audit? Because you're only paying for the audit in the two counties where you were behind.
It didn't happen in neutral Wisconsin, where there are an equal number of Republicans and Democrats. It happened in
Leslie, he's doing this for free.
a place where the vote was 75, 80% for the Democrat. You take away any number of those, and that 20,000 lead disappears. In other words, if you count...
Well, no, you have to take away 20,000. There's not any number of those clause in there. You have to take away 20,000 for 20,000, because math.
The lawful votes, Trump won Wisconsin by a good margin. Indeed, if you count the lawful votes in Pennsylvania, he won it by about 300,000 votes.
Okay.
Also,
okay, fine. You can have Wisconsin, you can have Pennsylvania. Biden wins.
In the lawsuit filed in Wisconsin, which is really a petition because of their procedures.
Okay.
There were no inspectors provided for the count of the illegal ballots. There were numerous backdated ballots. We're just counting them now.
Okay, but we haven't determined that they're illegal ballots.
Run over into the theft.
I mean, if there's no inspectors, if in fact there's no inspectors, there was no way to ascertain that those ballots were illegal. So you're kind of caught in your own little catch-22 there.
Thousands, and there were many precincts in which there was an overvote. Now let me explain to you what an overvote is.
He's about to lie.
Which is something you should have explained to the American people. Because it's about the clearest circumstantial evidence of massive fraud that you can have.
Yeah.
An overvote is if 200% of the people who are registered in a district vote. Think about that. 200% of the registered voters in a district vote.
Yeah.
What does that mean? That means
that you've got the number of registered voters incorrect. That's what that means.
Somebody voted twice?
Nope.
That means somebody who's not entitled to vote voted?
Nope.
An illegal?
Nope.
A person from another city or state?
Nope.
A person who's not registered?
Nope.
But what it means...
If any of those people vote, their vote will not count. There's systems for this. This isn't the first time we've had an election.
Is that those are illegitimate votes. You don't have an overvote of 200% or 300%.
Yeah.
You don't have an overvote of 100%. Most precincts don't have 100% turnout. In fact, classically, it's considered to be an overvote if you go over 80%. Well, in Michigan and Wisconsin, we have overvotes in numerous precincts of 150%.
We do not.
200% and 300%. One of the reasons why the two Republicans did not certify in Wayne, Michigan, Wayne County, Michigan, is because the overvote was so high, monstrously high.
They did certify. They did certify. And there's always an imbalance because people don't always know where they're supposed to go in order to vote. Oh, we're going to Mark Twain Elementary? I'm pretty sure we're at Bertha Kennedy this year. It does not mean that those votes are fraudulent. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to vote near my work because I'm on the way home anyway. I don't want to. I'm just going to do. I got to do it during my lunch, so I'm going to vote downtown. Okay, that's fine.
In about 2/3 of the precincts in the city of Detroit.
Oh, and of course, this in the city where people go to work, this is going to happen more often than in the suburbs. That's the way it works. By the way, Biden won the suburbs as well. But anyway,
Detroit, which means magically 2 and 3 times the number of registered voters turned out to vote. In fact, we have precincts in which 2 times the number of people who live there, including children, voted. That's absurd.
that is absurd.
The frustration of this is, what I'm describing to you is a massive fraud.
It is not.
It isn't a little teeny one.
It's not
It
fraud
isn't,
at all.
100
It is not
votes
a little
switched here or
teeny one.
there.
I'll give you a ding for that.
Georgia. We're about
Yeah.
to file a major
Yes.
lawsuit in Georgia.
Let's get into Georgia.
That'll be filed probably tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
I don't need to go through it.
Thank God.
Virtually the same things I've told you before.
Uh-huh.
In the city of Atlanta,
Yeah.
Republicans were not allowed to watch the absentee mail-in ballot process.
Incorrect. They've testified to that in court.
Inspections completely cast aside.
Uh-huh. Are you going to talk about the water pipe?
And we have numerous double voters.
Uh-huh.
We have numerous out-of-state voters.
Uh-huh. They just did a state recount.
And we have specific evidence of intimidation and changes of vote. That'll all be in the lawsuit that comes out tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
Arizona is
Doesn't flip the state. None of those things he just mentioned flip a state.
as a state that we're looking at very, very carefully.
Uh-huh.
I would say we're probably going to bring a lawsuit in Arizona.
Oh, I
More
see.
than
You probably
probably.
will.
I think we are going to bring a lawsuit in Arizona.
You will.
We're still collecting that evidence.
Please stop touching the mic. Please keep your head. Step back.
And the state that we're looking at that would surprise you is we have very, very significant amount of fraud allegations.
Is he? We're a little bit behind live. If someone has actually seen him collapse on the stage, let me know and we'll fast forward to get there.
In the state of New Mexico, and we have a significant number of allegations in the state of Virginia. I don't know yet whether the number in Virginia will reach the number that can turn the election. In the states that we have indicated in red, Georgia, Pennsylvania,
Come on, Fox,
Michigan,
you can do it.
Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona, we more than double the number of votes needed to overturn the
We haven't seen the melting hair yet.
election in terms of provable illegal ballots. All you got to do to find out if I'm misleading you at all is to look at the lawsuits. Look what's alleged. Look at the affidavits. Maybe we can supply more affidavits. In order to do it, I have to get permission from the people. But in the materials I have here, there are at least 10 that come from citizens. We have 1,000 at least. And we're getting more every day. And there are other aspects of this fraud that at this point I really can't reveal. This is really enough. It's enough to overturn any election. It's disgraceful what happened. And I'll conclude by asking you to just
there
think
it
about
is.
this for a
We're
minute.
there right now.
What happened on the morning of November 3rd when they were going to count this new kind of ballot, this mail-in ballot?
Mail-in ballot is not new. It is not new. We've been doing it since the Civil War.
Did every Democrat
That's his hair dye. His hair dye is leaking now. It's melting and coming down his cheeks.
leader in Pennsylvania and in Michigan and in Wisconsin and in Georgia and in Nevada and in Arizona, they all wake up and all separately have the same idea? Do they all separately have the idea that we're going to put Republican inspectors in pens
Wow.
We're not going to let them look at mail-in or absentee
Stop
ballots.
touching the microphone! My God, this guy's a train wreck.
They all independently come up with that. Like, just by coincidence. They say, hey, we're going to put the Republicans in pens and corrals.
Yeah.
We're going to do it in Pittsburgh. We're going to do it in Philadelphia. We're going to do it in Detroit.
Yeah.
We're going to do it in Milwaukee. We're going to do it in...
So here's what he's talking about by the pens and corrals. So you've got the workers, and they're some of them volunteers, some of them actual workers hired to separate the votes or count the votes, put them through the machines, whatever. The people in the counting rooms. They're sitting down, and then you've got 6 feet, because you need 6 feet because of COVID. You don't want people like just breathing right over you. Plus, you have the security of the vote to worry about. So you set people back 6 feet. This is standard process in all the elections. The 6 feet doesn't even matter COVID. You've got a barricade. So those people back here don't keep coming forward to look at things. They put up the little barricades. They're not in pens. They're not in cages. They're not immigrants that Trump has separated from their family. There's just those, like at a concert, those rails, the little fences, the metal fences. That's what they have. Now, in some places because we're going to have tables all over the place. In Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, in one of the places, they have them at 25 feet. Completely legal. Completely legal. So a lawsuit was filed. We're not close enough. Okay, we'll make you closer. But we don't have enough people in there. Once they're closer, we don't have enough. This is Rudy the other day was saying that they moved the fences 6 feet closer. No, they moved them to 6 feet. And the distance of the space between the tables and the fence originally was where the employees would take their breaks. That was the setup area so that you had the tables, you could take a break in between, and then the barricades. That kept everybody, that was a COVID thing. So that everybody remained safe, during a time when COVID is spiking and we've lost 250,000 Americans. So, back to the melting witch.
Las Vegas. We're going to do it in Phoenix. What did I miss? We're going to do it in Atlanta. Or isn't the logical conclusion that I think any jury would accept after they heard this evidence that somebody had this plan? Maybe that was always the plan, to do this very, very questionable form of voting, which has been criticized by President Carter, by Secretary Baker, by most experts on election reform. I think the logical conclusion is this is a common plan, a common scheme. It comes right directly from the Democrat Party, and it comes from the candidate. Clearly.
There's nothing about any of those conclusions that has anything to do with logic. Nothing.
That's the reason why Hillary Clinton said,
Any time you have a scheme of more than 4 people, somebody's going to rat you out. That's just the way it works. But he's talking about hundreds of thousands of people in on this in order to turn the vote in multiple states. At least 10,000. Probably do it. I could do it in 6 notes. But plus, now we've got the server in Germany and Spain and Venezuela and Brazil. Hey, thanks for the super heart, Slick Chick.
don't concede, even if you're losing. That's the reason we had a Freudian slip by the candidate. And he said he had the best voter fraud team in the country.
For inspecting voter fraud.
That's the reason why he probably didn't have to go out and campaign. He had to have known what they were going to do. This had to be planned in advance.
Wow.
I'm kind of checking.
Hold on.
And he said he had the best voter fraud team in the country. That's the reason why he probably didn't
There's one side.
have to go out and campaign. He had to have known what they were going to do.
There's the other. He's got multiple lines coming down here. We got, this is the Fraser Delta coming into Vancouver right here. You can see how the river itself splits into multiple lanes down here. So it's all coming from the same body of hair right here. And then these are called tributaries.
This had to be planned in advance. I'm kind of checking, did they go, to the same contractor to get the corrals to put the Republicans in?
They weren't corrals.
And this is a disgraceful thing that was done in this country. Probably not much more disgraceful than the things these people did in office, which you didn't and don't bother to cover, and you conceal from the American people.
Right.
But we let this happen. We use largely a Venezuelan voting machine.
There it is, Venezuela.
In essence, to count our vote. We let this happen, we're going to become Venezuela. We cannot let this happen to us. We cannot not allow these crooks, because that's what they are, to steal an election from the American people.
Right.
They elected Donald Trump. They didn't elect Joe Biden.
Look, if who the people choose is the standard, I'm sorry, but Hillary's the president.
Joe Biden is in the lead because of the fraudulent ballots, the illegal ballots that were produced and that were allowed to be used after the election was over.
No.
Give us an opportunity to prove it in court, and we will. Now I'm going to add
A reminder, they've lost 25, perhaps up to 29 different cases. Hard to keep track.
ask Sidney Powell.
Oh, good.
To
This Sidney Powell was General Flynn's lawyer, still is General Flynn's lawyer.
describe to you what we can describe about another totally
At Random has relatives from Venezuela. This is not Venezuela, nor will it ever be anywhere close. Well, maybe in like 1,000 years.
outrageous situation. I don't think most Americans know that our ballots get calculated, many of them outside the United States, and are completely open to hacking, completely open to change, and it's being done by a company.
And they're also calculated here in the States. You can actually check because the Dominion machines are counting paper ballots, which is why you can have a hand recount. And guess what? They did it, and it all matched up just fine. Sorry.
That specializes in voter fraud.
Yeah.
I'll let Sidney describe that to you.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Rudy.
Things are about to go right off the rails, and they were never on them.
What we are really dealing with here and uncovering more by the day is the massive.
Like, why are they all standing up there? So, first off, why so many flags? I mean, it's so ridiculous to surround yourself with American flags everywhere behind you. Because I'm gonna go back to the broadcast.
Influence of communist money through Venezuela, Cuba, and likely China in the interference with our elections here in the United States. The Dominion voting systems, the Smartmatic technology software, and the software that goes in other computerized voting systems here as well, not just Dominion, were created in Venezuela at the direction of Hugo Chavez to make sure he never lost an election after one constitutional referendum came out the way he did not want it to come out. We have one very strong witness who has explained how it all works. His affidavit is attached to the pleadings of Lynn.
Normally, I'm not about the fashion, but can we talk a little bit about what is going on here?
Wood in the lawsuit he filed in Georgia. It is a stunning, detailed affidavit because he was with Hugo Chavez while he was being briefed on how it worked. He was with Hugo Chavez when he saw it operate to make sure the election came out his way. That was the express purpose for creating this software. He has seen it operate, and as soon as he saw the multiple states shut down the...
There are people out there with... they've got like the string on their board with a, hold on, it's Hugo Chavez. That's who it is.
Voting on the night of the election, he knew the same thing was happening here, that was what had gone on. Now, the software itself was created with so many variables and so many back doors that can be hooked up to the internet or a thumb drive stuck in it or whatever, but one of its most characteristic features is its ability to flip votes. It can set and run an algorithm that probably ran all over the country to take a certain percentage of votes from President Trump and flip them to President Biden, which we might never have uncovered had the votes for President Trump not been so overwhelming in so many of these states that it broke the algorithm that had been plugged into the system. And that's what...
I don't know how many nerds are in my audience, but this is what she just said. The numbers, the votes for Trump were so overwhelming that it broke the algorithm. Because that's how algorithms work. It broke it. What's up, C++ crowd?
caused them to have to shut down in the states they shut down in.
Did she say President
That's
Biden? I didn't even hear that.
Had the votes for President Trump not been so overwhelming,
Yeah.
run an algorithm that probably ran all over the country to take a certain percentage of votes from President Trump and flip them to President Biden.
Right.
Which we might never have uncovered had the votes for President Trump not been so overwhelming in so many of these states that it broke the algorithm that had been plugged into the system. And that's what caused them to have to...
The algorithm was plugged into the system. That she could mean programmed, but the algorithm, it was by percentages. And so once you get above a certain number, percentage no longer applies because now you're dealing with 2 or 3 different per capitas. And you got to be careful when you get there. And the algorithm, they just broke. The algorithm said, fuck this, I'm out of here. That's what happens inside a computer machine.
Shut down in the states they shut down in. That's when they came in the back door with all the mail-in ballots. Many of
the mail-in ballots. You mean the ballots that were mailed in? The votes? Yeah, in the back door. They came in the back door.
Which
it was a loading dock, but it's a back door. They brought it in with in big boxes and put them on the tables and said, "Here are some votes." That's the back door. And the thing was, as they were coming in the back door, it was a back door of a hospital, and there were a bunch of nurses taking out masks out the back door. So that's all happening at the same time. This is big, people. Wake up.
They had actually fabricated. Some were on pristine paper with identically matching perfect
100% she thinks that algorithms come from Al Gore.
Circle dots for Mr. Biden. Others were shoved in batches. They're always put in a certain number of batches, and people would rerun the same batch. This corresponds
which you're supposed to do
to our statistical evidence that shows incredible spikes in the vote counts at particular times, and that corresponds to eyewitness testimony.
Right. So one of the theories that Trump tweeted out last night was that in Wisconsin there was a huge spike in the voter count right at about 3 a.m. in the morning, which is exactly what should happen because the absentee ballots in Milwaukee couldn't be counted by law until Election Day. So they started counting at 7 a.m. in Milwaukee. Then once they start the count, by law, they are not allowed to stop the count. And so the head of elections in Milwaukee County estimated that they would come in with an absentee ballot count in total between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. And that's exactly what happened. They followed everything prescribed by law, and at 3:40 whatever, there was a dump of ballots, and by dump of ballots or data, that means the totals were given to the central election system after 3 a.m. And you see a huge spike because in Milwaukee, there were 60,000, no, wait, there were somewhere around 300,000 ballots, and some of them went to Trump, and 267, sorry, we're dealing with too many. Bottom line is everything was followed legally, and what I really like is that the head of elections in Milwaukee prognosticated that shit exactly. Between 3 and 6 a.m. If I'd said that, it would be like 3 p.m. the next day. Are we almost done? And I'm like, I thought we would all be better.
Of numerous people who have come forward and said they saw the ballots come in the back door at that time.
Joseph, no, that's, again, I just went over the whole thing. Joseph is saying, actually wrong. The large spikes came in the morning after they had stopped counting. It was one spike. There were votes for Trump. And that is exactly as prescribed by law. And they even predicted before the election, days before the election, we got this. They knew how many absentee ballots they were going to get, approximately. They knew how long it took to count absentee ballots. They couldn't even open the envelope. So they knew, okay, what's going to take us this long? It's somewhere between 3 and 6 a.m. Exactly.
Notably, the Dominion executives are nowhere to be found now. They are moving their offices overnight to different places. Their office in Toronto was shared with one of the Soros entities. One of the
It's George Soros. David, you're paid by Soros. Can you confirm that?
leaders of the Dominion project in overall is
Joseph, you couldn't watch all the states. And yes, by the way, this was broadcast live on YouTube. You could watch the count of the Milwaukee ballots. There were spikes in different states. Okay, but let's just stay on task. Let's deal with the one state. She's talking about Milwaukee. That's exactly what should have happened. And that's what happens. In many states, you count all of the ballots in a particular precinct, then you report those ballots. Mail-in ballots are usually done separately, sometimes with the regular ballots, sometimes at counting houses, and those are reported. Now, counting houses for mail-in ballots are used particularly most of the time in large cities because you end up with large amounts of ballots from particular counties. So those are kept separate, and those are counted separately. And every state has their own rules. For example, in Pennsylvania, you couldn't start counting until Election Day. In Florida, you could count weeks in advance. That's why we had the results from Florida come in so quickly.
Lord Malloch Brown, Mr. Soros' number 2 person in the UK, and part of his organization.
It's George Soros.
There are ties of the Dominion leadership to the Clinton Foundation and to other known politicians in this country.
Wow.
Just to give you a brief description
This is full on conspiracy theory now.
of how this
I told you things were going to go off the rails.
worked, I'm going to quote from a letter that
Okay, so let's just get rid of Joseph. Go ahead, he's an idiot. Your globalist criminals got rigging software elections through the Dominion software, and the election is getting overturned as we speak. No, it is not. That's literally, they're up there complaining that the election isn't getting overturned. That's what's happening right now, Joseph. Somebody get rid of Joseph.
was written, and I will read that to make sure I get the quotes right. This person was objecting to the United States acquisition of Sequoia Voting Systems by Smartmatic, a foreign-owned company. I believe this transaction raises exactly the sort of foreign ownership issues that CFIUS is best positioned to examine for national security purposes. It's undisputed that Smartmatic is foreign-owned and it has acquired Sequoia. They keep changing the names as they go along. Different times when a problem comes up, they just create another corporation and call it a different name. But it was a voting machine company doing business in the United States. Sequoia voting machines were used to record over 125 million votes during the 2004 presidential election in the United States. Smartmatic now acknowledges that Antonio Mujica, a Venezuelan
What does it mean when you acknowledge something?
businessman, has controlling interest in Smartmatic, but the company has not revealed who all the Smartmatic owners are. According to the press, Smartmatic's owners are hidden through a web of offshore private entities, and that is, in fact, true. Smartmatic has been associated.
Okay, let's just say that all of what she's talking about is true. All of it's talking about, okay, so let's just say that the Dominion machines could be compromised and Smartmatic is being owned by Soros, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, that's been debunked. You can go to Snopes. I'm sure that's on there. I think I read it on there. That someone who's on George Soros, one of George Soros' foundations, is also involved in Smartmatic. It's you can go and read about it for yourself there. But let's just say that all of that is true. In the counties that use Dominion software, they have the paper ballots, okay? And they can compare the paper ballots, which they've done. In Georgia, they did recounts, and everything matched perfectly. The Dominion machines are in fact more accurate than the humans doing the counting. So even if the Dominion software was being controlled by a 400-pound guy sitting on his bed named Hugo Chavez in Venezuela, it didn't affect anything. We have hard evidence. We have the paper copy. As Rudy would say, the head is right here. And then he hit the mic several times. Again, I apologize if that's annoying to you.
With the Venezuelan government led by Hugo Chavez, which is openly
we're
hostile
back
to
to
the
Hugo.
United States, and of course, as we all know, communistic and really brutalized.
Communistic. You can just say communist. Communistic.
Its own people. The system has been continued there
I'm having the best time because my brain's already broke.
by Mr. Maduro and ensured his election.
Yeah.
Smartmatic's possible connection to the Venezuelan government poses a potential national security concern in the context of its acquisition of Sequoia because electronic voting machines are susceptible to tampering, and insiders are in the best position to engage in such tampering. This letter expresses concern of the Chicago 2006 primary election. And it ends by saying the products and services that are of Venezuelan origin and evaluate Smartmatic's ownership to determine who could have influence and control over these and other Sequoia products and services are important to the national security of the United States. This letter was written
She really is an excellent reader. I would love to have Karen do a bedtime story for me sometime.
to Hank Paulson on October 6, 2006 by Congresswoman Carolyn B. Maloney. Senators Klobuchar and Warren have raised
Klobuchar.
these concerns as recently as December 2019. Why our
Klobuchar.
government has not taken them seriously is beyond my comprehension.
Because of the Senate, because of Mitch McConnell in the Senate. The Democrats have tried 5 times. That's 5. But since it's the election, I scanned my hands twice. 5 times the Democrats have tried to pass election security laws in the last couple of years, including 2 that are pending right now, which GovTrack gives a 3% chance of passing because the Republicans in the Senate are just dead set against reforming the elections. So this is excuse me, this is 100% that Mitch.
Unless they have some of the 3-letter agencies have used them themselves in other parts of the world. We know that the technology was exported to affect an election in Argentina. That's admitted by our friend who wrote the affidavit about Hugo Chavez and his interest in Smartmatic.
Rudy is still melting, by the way.
Again, in 2006, Carolyn Maloney wrote the Honorable John Snow, the Secretary of the Treasury, about the issues. Speaking of Smartmatic's leadership, one of the Smartmatic patent holders, Eric Coomer, I believe his name is on.
Breaking news, President Trump spoke with 2 GOP canvassers in Michigan the night before they sought to rescind votes to certify election results, sources tell ABC News. So President Trump, according to ABC News, actually called the canvassers on the Michigan in the Wayne County. I'm guessing it's Wayne County. He's been actively calling people, asking them to stall the election.
The web.
And this is from yesterday, kids, so it's not that great, and it's empty.
As being recorded in a conversation with Antifa members, saying that he had the election rigged for Mr. Biden, nothing to worry about here, and they were going to F Trump. His social media is filled with hatred for the president and for the United States of America as a whole, as are the social media accounts of many other Smartmatic people.
Are we going to use social media now as a gauge to whether somebody can do their job in an unbiased manner? Is that what we're really going to do? Because we could go and look at the social media patterns of the guy in Wayne County. We could look at his.
There has been widespread use of this. Dominion itself is utilized in 2,000 jurisdictions in 30 states. It has been uncertifiable in multiple states who realized all the problems that it had, including Texas. Experts have described it across the board, from a Princeton group of 3 professors to experts that we have talked to about its end user vulnerabilities. People can admittedly go in and change whatever they want. They can set the ratio of votes from one thing to another. They can say that a Biden vote counts as 1.25 and a Trump vote counts as 0.75.
Well, thank God we have the paper copies.
And those may be the numbers that were actually used here. It's not just the swing states that were affected. The algorithm was likely run across the country to affect the entire election. Like I said,
Okay. And apparently they didn't do it in Georgia, and Georgia's part of the entire country and a swing state.
we only discovered it this year because of the overwhelming number of votes for President Trump in the swing state.
Can I just say, looking at this outfit right now, apparently I can't. I need you guys to rewind the broadcast in your mind, and I'm just going to do this again. Here we go. She's talking. I pause. I do this. I'm indicating her blouse or whatever, the hell, the jacket or whatever. And then I say, can I just say that Belinda Carlisle has really let herself go? Because it's a very 80s outfit. Marcy had this outfit in the... It's working out really well, kids.
That caused the machines to have to shut down for them to backfill for adding votes. We have evidence of different numbers of votes being injected into the system, the same identical, unique 6-digit
Is she going through puberty right now?
number multiple times in at least 2 states that we've analyzed so far, and I'm talking about like 341,542 votes for Biden and 100,012 for Trump.
She's making this up right now.
There's no explanation, no logical explanation for the same numbers being injected 20 minutes apart into the machine. The software manual itself, you can download it from the internet, and I would encourage you all to read it because it specifically advertises some of these things as
Does it talk about breaking algorithms? That's the part I want to read.
features of the system.
Uh-huh.
Why it was ever allowed into this country is beyond my comprehension, and why nobody has dealt with it is absolutely appalling.
Well, the Democrats have suggested a hand count and paper ballots for every single vote, and they've done that multiple times, and Mitch has blocked it every single time. So yeah, I can tell you exactly why, because Mitch McConnell allows it. And guess who gets money from the... You guys can connect the dots.
The machines were easily accessible to hackers. There's a video on the net that it will explain to you how a kid with a cell phone can hack one of these voting machines.
A kid with a cell phone cannot hack a Dominion machine. I don't believe that for a second.
There's been no oversight of Dominion or its software.
By the way, if you happen to be volunteering at one of the polling stations and a teenager walks in with a cell phone, just get, like, you know what? Can we get...
Workers in each county were trained by Dominion, but there's no evidence of any monitoring otherwise. We have testimony of different workers admitting that they were trained how to dispose of Trump votes and add to Biden votes. The software has a feature pursuant to which you can drag and drop any number of batches of votes to the candidate of your choice or simply throw them away. So we have
paper
mathematical evidence in a number of states of massive quantities of Trump votes being trashed. Just simply put it in the trash like you would on your computer with any file, and Biden votes being injected. That's addition to the flipping. I mean, it really happens in 2 ways. There's an algorithm that runs that automatically flips all the votes, and then each operator has the ability to go in, override settings. They can ignore a signature. They can ignore the top line of the ballot. They can go down.
And somehow Republicans still manage to gain seats in the House and hold on to the Senate. Really? For criminal masterminds, these Democrats are pretty stupid. I mean, if you're going to swing the presidential election, take a look at the ballot lower down. That's all I'm saying. So what she's saying is that It's Hugo Chavez. It's Hugo.
Down ballot and select who they want to change the results for. Mr. The gentleman who founded Smartmatic, there's video of him on the internet explaining that, yes, on at least one occasion he admits they changed 1 million votes with no problem.
Well, I mean, there was a problem. They were caught. So that's the problem with that.
The jurisdictions that have had this problem might not have known of the issues, but many did. And I think a full-scale criminal investigation needs to be undertaken immediately by the Department of Justice and by every state's.
We need to hold a brand new election. 3 days later. Okay, 2 out of 3.
Equivalent Attorney General's office or state investigatory unit, because there's evidence of different benefits being provided to the people who spent $100 million of taxpayer money at the last minute for their state to get the Dominion voting systems put in time for this election in different ways. There's one person that a lawyer told me got, quote, election insurance, meaning that he would be able to make sure he was elected. I'm sure they explained that feature in detail to many people who expressed interest in putting this voting system in. Texas denied certification of the Dominion system in 2019, but there are no doubt issues with the software that Texas did use, unbeknownst to Texas, I would imagine, since they went to great trouble to examine the Dominion systems and reject them. But other software, the source code that does the alterations is embedded, we have been told, in the source code all across the country and all the voting machines. There's no doubt it has been used to alter elections in other countries. We know specifically that Venezuela exported it for that purpose to Argentina and other Latin American companies to make sure that the corrupt rulers who were willing to pay the highest price for being in office were allowed to rig their elections. This is stunning, heartbreaking, infuriating, and the most unpatriotic.
Amusing. Don't forget amusing.
Patriotic acts I can even imagine for people in this country to have participated in.
Oh, I can think of one. What if you called the president of Ukraine and asked him to investigate your political opponent?
Any way, shape, or form. And I want the American public to know right now that we will not be intimidated. American patriots are fed up with the corruption from the local level to the highest level of our government, and we are going to take this country back. We are not going to be intimidated. We are not going to back down.
Whoa.
We are going to clean this mess up now.
Wow.
President Trump won by
We are going to cleanse this nation.
a landslide. We are going to prove it. And we are going to reclaim the United States of America for the people who vote for freedom.
Wow.
How come you're not
She hits it with her elbow. How do you even do that? How do you do that? Wow.
suing in the Wisconsin counties that use this? Why are you only doing a recount?
And excuse me, that we're not out to the questions at this point. So excuse me, we're not at the questions at this point. My name is Jenna Ellis, and I'm the senior legal advisor.
We're not doing questions right now. We're at the flag bumping portion of the presentation.
To the Trump campaign, and I'd like to just explain.
I know you're not at the questions point yet, but we're really, really bored with this bullshit. So if you could just answer like one question, that would just sort of overturn the whole. I mean, we could. Yes, you can do. Can we just answer the one question that will prove the case against you, and then we can all leave, and then you can still do your thing, if that's okay? Can we do?
Now where we've been and where we're at and what you can expect from this process. So what you have heard, I'm sure, in the fake newspapers tomorrow will be one of two things. Either there was not sufficient evidence that we've presented, or we spoke too long. Okay, so
She's correct.
What you've heard now is basically an opening statement. This is what you can expect to see when we get to court to actually have a full trial on the merits, to actually show this evidence in court and prove our case. This is not a Law and Order episode where everything is neatly wrapped up in 60 minutes. For those of you who are here in this room or have maybe tuned out in other networks, clearly you've never been court reporters. Trials take time.
Just want to show you guys this. If you guys are wondering what the word skulking means, hold on. Just watch this guy. This is ninja level skulking right here. Watch this guy.
It's not a Law and Order episode where everything is neatly wrapped up in 60 minutes. For those of you who are here in this room or have maybe tuned out in other networks, clearly you've never been court reporters. Trials take time.
That is some skulking right there, folks.
Putting on evidence takes time. This is basically an opening statement so the American people can understand what the networks have been hiding and what they refuse to cover, because all of your fake news headlines are dancing around the merits.
I want to find some place that has dancing right now. Most of the dancing places are closed. Maybe we should go to one of the bears.
Of this case, and are trying to delegitimize what we are doing.
Delegitimize?
Here. Let me be very clear that our objective is to make sure to preserve and...
I really like it when people get up behind the podium and start yelling at you in a lecturing fashion. That's my favorite time to have government peoples.
Protect election integrity. President Trump has been saying from day one that this is about maintaining free and fair elections in this country. It is not about overturning an outcome. It is about making sure that election integrity is preserved, and every American should want that. If every American is not on board with that, you have to ask yourself why. And if your fake news network is not covering this or allowing you...
I've been asking myself why for the last 1 hour and 21 minutes, lady.
To cover it fairly and accurately, you should ask yourself why.
AP sources. Trump invites top Michigan lawmakers to White House amid long shot bid to overturn election results.
This is absolutely a legitimate legal basis. We have been asked to provide an entire case that generally would take years in civil litigation. I've been a prosecutor. I have tried cases with far simpler facts. One thing happened in a matter of minutes, and it still takes days. And we go...
I'm not sure that that's really that big of a flex there. I've tried cases with one fact, and it took me days.
Go through a jury process. This is the court of public opinion right now. We are not trying our case in the court of public opinion, because if we were, we would get unbiased jurors.
You're literally doing a press conference for the public. That's what you just said. You just said, this is so that the American people understand. That's what you just said. That is the fucking court of public opinion! She's pretty.
I would strike 99% of you from the jury, and I would be allowed to because of the fake news coverage you provide. You are not unbiased.
Oh no! Don't stop me from jury duty!
Jurors. And until you step out of your role as a journalist and actually go into a courtroom.
Until you stop doing your jobs.
And you are a judge on a bench that has sworn an oath to be unbiased in our separation of powers, then your opinion does not matter. The facts matter, the truth matters, and if you are fair reporters, you will...
Unless your opinion is a vote, and then it matters. Unless it's a vote for Biden, then it doesn't matter. But if it was a vote for Trump...
will cover that fairly and appropriately, and you will allow coverage of our media team here and our legal team. That is absolutely shocking that all you cover are around the margins, and I've seen all of you taking pictures right now, and I can anticipate what...
She's going full on into the media right now. This is her getting back at her Twitter feed.
Your headlines are going to be. If you are not willing to talk about the evidence that has been presented, then that is absolutely unacceptable for journalistic standards. This is an opening statement. This is something where we have told you what the evidence will show, and we have given you a brief description. That happens in a courtroom all the time, where that's not the fact-finding process. That is just an overview. That is what we have given you today, because the American people deserve to know what we have uncovered in the last couple of weeks. Remember, this is such a short time frame, and this is an elite strike force team that is working on behalf of the president and the campaign to make sure that our Constitution is protected. We are a nation.
What did you just say?
In the last couple of weeks. Remember, this is such a short time frame, and this is an elite strike force team that is working on behalf of the president and
Rudy, Sidney Powell, and Jenna Ellis, the elite strike force team. Hey, wait, haven't we just spent the last 4 years railing against the elites? Someone's got to talk to Tucker about this.
the campaign to make sure that our Constitution is protected. We are a nation of rules, not a nation of rulers. There is not someone that just gets to pick who the next president is outside the will of the American people.
She was a law professor, by the way. This woman right here with her mouth agape, she was a law professor.
And that is our task, because when we talk about
this man up here with the melting hair, he is an elite fucking strike force tasker.
voter fraud, it's actually
I don't think I can match her volume with the L.
election official fraud. That cannot stand. The Constitution requires that the state legislatures are the ones that make election law. It still has to go by the U.S. Constitution. But what has happened in this case is that state and local level officials, and all the way up, have changed the rules. That's what the Democrats do. If they don't like the rules, they
Hold on. So the states are the ones, by law, that can write the rules. But what's happened is that the states are writing the rules.
change them. And they change them at the last minute. They manipulate them. They want to tear down our American system.
They're changing the laws. Right. The people who have the right to change the laws have changed laws.
Our founders were so brilliant that they anticipated.
They were not brilliant. The founders created the Articles of Confederacy. If you don't remember your civics class, or you're from outside this country, the founding fathers, the same founding fathers for the most part, that came up with the Constitution. For 9 years, we had a confederacy. Not the Confederacy, the Civil War Confederacy, but they came up with the Articles. Anyway, it's a long story. So the Constitution was not our first Constitution, is what I'm saying. For 9 years, this country was a mess. These are the same genius founding fathers.
Anticipated this, that there would be corruption, there would be foreign influence, there would be attempts to manipulate the outcome of the election, especially with who they called our chief magistrate.
With whom?
I would encourage all of you to go home and actually read Alexander Hamilton's Federalist 68 and see
I have.
what he described as an advocacy position to adopt and ratify the Electoral College and the process by which we select our president. We select our president through the Electoral College not because it disenfranchises voters, but because it is a security mechanism for exactly the type of corruption that we are uncovering. And every American...
And also in order to disenfranchise voters so that the mob doesn't get to pick the president. But okay. Yeah, that's why.
should be grateful and thankful that our founders had the foresight to put in those protections and provisions to make sure that your legitimate legal vote is not disenfranchised. That is what we are advocating for. We want to make sure to protect election integrity.
Remember, they sued to block all of the votes in Pennsylvania, to throw out all of the votes in Pennsylvania. And what they're trying to do now is throw out all the legal votes in certain counties in Michigan and Georgia and Wisconsin. All of the legal votes.
And your president, President Trump, we are so proud that he is in this fight because he understands that when he swore his oath of office, he swore an oath to uphold and defend the United States Constitution. That is what he is doing. And that is what we are doing. We are confident that through this multiple pathway to victory, we will get to the actual outcome.
We are defending the oath of the Constitution and melting. Two things. We are doing two things. Defending the Constitution, melting, three things. Wearing sweaters from the 80s. Defending the Constitution.
That the evidence shows. But this is not about overturning an election on our part. It's about making sure that we protect and preserve free and fair elections for all future American elections. If the United States caves to corruption or this type of election integrity disaster, then no election will be secure.
4-second pause. She comes up with disaster.
From here on out. And we all need to be keenly aware of that. Mm-hmm. We are the representatives here that are standing in this gap and defending President Trump and defending you, the American people, at the end of the day. This is ultimately about the United States of America. And we want...
Right. The lady who's standing in front of 48 American flags talking about the American election has to explain that it's ultimately about the United States of America. Because I was like, wait a minute, because you've been talking about Venezuela for 2.5 hours. What about bold leadership? Are you going to say something about President Trump's bold leadership?
Want to make sure to protect and defend that. And as my colleagues have said, we will not back down. We won't be intimidated. President Trump will not be intimidated. You, the American people, should not be intimidated. You, the press, should cover this fairly and should know that this...
So then who's doing the intimidation if all the American people...
This matters to election integrity, and it matters to the future of our nation. So we have given you an overview.
God, I wish she was my law professor, because I would be able then to raise my hand and say, what the fuck? I wish she spoke to her students like this.
But recognize this is not a court of law. We will get there, and we...
Right now, you're in the court of public opinion. By choice. You guys announced this press conferences. This is not part of your job.
We have time, and we have constitutional provisions that will step in when we show the corruption and the irredeemably challenged and overturned votes that are absolutely corrupt in all of these counties.
That was not English.
It is irredeemably compromised. We will show that, but you have to give us that opportunity. This has been just our opening statement, and we have an opportunity to get there, and we have time, and we will do that. This is the United States of America, and we stand proudly for President Donald J. Trump. Thank you.
And that is my book report on Catcher in the Rye. They never caught him.
Thank you.
One more point.
Yep.
The world.
So earlier, Rudy came over and whispered into Sidney Powell's ear something, and this is what she's going to make the point on. And hopefully something from his sideburns rubbed off on her, so we'll look at her face. Actually, that I don't want to really look at.
Is watching this. I have gotten multiple emails from people in other countries who watch the same pattern happen there. We have witness testimony that the same things were done in those countries as this was
I thought this was about the United States of America.
Exported from Venezuela and by Maduro and by Mr. Chavez and by Cuba. And of course, we know China also has a substantial...
Just to kind of, you know what, for those of you who just ate lunch, I apologize. Somebody spoons her at night.
Presence in Venezuela and substantial...
David Mixon says this easily was the most outlandish press conference ever held by the team of lawyers representing the President of the United States. Yeah, when I look back at all of the press conferences held by...
Financial interest in making sure that President Trump does not continue in office. This is the consummate foreign interference in our election in the most criminal way you can possibly imagine. It must be shut down. We know, for example, that one of the Dominion's highest level employees or officers went to Detroit himself to man the Detroit Operations Center, where he could watch the votes coming in real time and decide what file folder in the system to put those votes into. That's why you see massive spikes after hours when people were told that all the votes...
You guys are being super funny today, and I appreciate everybody in the chat room. I can't respond to everything because this is comedy gold. This is as gold as her high school tassel. Someone just said, "Is that her high school tassel?" Yeah, unfortunately, the mortarboard has decayed over time, but she's kept that tassel. It was around. It was around the rearview mirror of her '72 Corvette for years. God, she loved that car.
Votes were in and all the votes were counted. Many Dominion employees have already reached out to us to tell us the truth. They are Americans who want to ensure election integrity like we do. I would encourage every Dominion or Smartmatic employee who is fed up with the corruption in this country.
Vicky Lane Rooney says, "You're an idiot," but doesn't spell "your" correctly. That's the second time in this broadcast that's happened.
To come forward as soon as possible, because these are serious federal offenses that I am confident the Department of Justice will be in pursuit of in very short order if they are not already.
Wow.
All right. A few questions?
Yeah, Mayor Giuliani, this sort of reminds of
Mayor Giuliani, what the hell is happening with your face?
30 years ago, they had...
Wait, Mayor Giuliani, one question. Is your never mind. I was gonna say something, but I just it's the only man in America wearing whiteface.
Federal judges doing consent decrees over elections. So you got a federal judge overseeing the election. This is old Chicago days. Will you be asking that?
Are you guys like me right now? All you want to do is he's wiped his face 487 times. I'm just a little bit farther. Just go to where the sweat. Just here. I have a sweatband for you. You could just a little, just like you do the forehead and then you come down the sides because that's where the sweat drips. It drips down the sides like that and then.
In Georgia, where you have two Senate races that have the
Wow.
U.S. District Court judges.
Just like if I asked you, tell me one thing about the vice presidential debate. The Fly. This is all anybody's going to remember about this is Rudy melting. This is where we are, please. This is where we are.
And federal authorities monitoring elections.
I can't say what's going to be done about...
In every county, we have sort of a Operation Grey Lord.
I'm sorry, I didn't... In what county?
County, Pennsylvania,
yes.
Atlanta, there's sort of an Operation Grey Lord going on. I don't know if you were informed of that.
I know about it. I really can't give you an opinion on that. I think, obviously,
wow.
Every election official should learn something from this and be very, very careful with the next election. I know this is a lot of information that we've given you, probably because we're frustrated with what we keep reading and hearing in the censored press, which is that we have no evidence, we have no specifics, we have no backup of what we're saying, and you largely ignore the affidavits that are filed. Whether you agree or disagree with an affidavit, it's evidence. You can't say, I mean, you're just lying to the American people when you say there's no evidence.
Hold on, 76-year-old, breaking, 76-year-old who dyes his hair for some reason accuses others of lying to the American people.
Sidney was giving you information that come from affidavits from other people that are given under oath. I was explaining things to you from affidavits that come from other people, American citizens, who swear under oath that they saw 100,000 ballots come in and that they were all for Joe Biden, and that I should point out now that Sidney has...
That tells us that Joe Biden won.
...spoken, that those happened just around the time that the Dominion or Smartmatic people called a halt to the election. And then you can also trace it with a very big spike in the vote count at exactly that time. Right up. So what we're telling you is supported by evidence.
Oh, so you got to watch Sidney Powell back him up with evidence. Here comes the evidence, folks.
And you can also trace it with a very big spike in the vote count at exactly that time.
See?
Right up. So
there's your evidence, people.
What we're telling you is supported by evidence. And we're going to have to present these because of the procedures that exist according to the different voting laws of the different states. For example, you asked us about Wisconsin. We have to first create a contest in Wisconsin before we can move to bringing a fulsome federal lawsuit. The contest, from everything I can see, is going to overturn the vote because it's going to show somewhere around 100,000 illegal ballots in 2 counties that Biden carried by 75, 80%. And you know how close Wisconsin is. And what I'm talking about is the absentee ballots for which there were no applications. And that's not just a small matter. The reason for the application and the reason to keep all these things together is precisely to avoid what the Democrats did in this election, which is to misuse the absentee ballot process and the mail-in ballot.
You know, I used to laugh at this guy too until they arrested Obama for Obamagate. So, who's laughing now?
Ballot process in order to cheat. So they really cheated in 2 respects.
John, that's his hair dye melting.
They cheated with the machines. Instead of asking me, are we going to bring a lawsuit in Wisconsin, which we will if we have to, you should have asked me, and you should be more astounded by the fact that our votes are counted.
Oh, we're astounded. We are astounded right now.
In Germany and in Spain by a company owned by affiliates of Chavez and Maduro. Did you ever believe that was true? Did any of you here believe that that was possible? Of course it's not. Of course it shouldn't be possible.
If it's possible or not, did it make a difference in the vote?
I don't know if we're going to have time to develop all that in time to fill the requirements of all these cases. We have enough evidence without that to overturn this election. We have it from the affidavits of American citizens. But that's a matter of national security that we're talking about now. Very, very serious matter of national security. Please don't make light of it. And don't act like you knew it. Don't act like it isn't a surprise. If that's not a headline tomorrow.
This whole press conference is about chiding the press. Like they're trying to get the press to write certain headlines for this is a press conference for an audience of dumb.
Then you don't know what a headline is. There isn't a single person in this country that would have believed that we have states that are stupid enough.
One question, sir. Do we have paper ballots to back up the Dominion machines? Do we have that? Also, are Dominion machines used in every county? These are simple questions.
To have our vote sent out of this country, you couldn't possibly believe that the company counting our vote, with control over our vote, is owned by 2 Venezuelans.
One company, Dominion, which isn't even used in every state.
Who were allies of Chavez, are present allies of Maduro, with a company whose chairman is a close associate and business partner of George Soros.
Yeah.
The biggest donor to the Democrat Party, the biggest donor to Antifa, and the biggest donor to Black Lives Matter.
Antifa. How exactly do you donate to Antifa? What is that webpage again?
Goodness, what do we have to do to get you to give our people
David, how does Soros pay you? Is it what do you use, Venmo or
the truth? Yes.
Thank you, Giuliani. My name is...
Yes, David, they're allies of a dead person. It's called the Triumvirate, and it's George Soros, and it's Hugo Chavez, and it's Frederick Douglass. All 3 of them together have this cohort. The Triumvirate of Evil, it's called.
As well as with RSBN.
Oh, only by those not in it. Oh, Zelle is so easy now. No, that's true. Good plan. Not that. Not that. Hold on. Here we go.
Some on this legal team have mentioned before that people close to the Trump campaign are pressuring them to drop the investigation into Dominion. Can you go further into detail and tell us specifically who those people are? Also, if it's possible, can you tell us if they work with some of our powerful defense groups in the United States, such as the CIA?
The last part was, do they work
With defense groups.
with defense groups and the CIA? First, I'm in charge of this investigation with Sydney and the people that you see here. There's been no pressure to stop investigating Dominion.
No one's
In fact, there's
pressuring y'all to stop.
no, there's pressure to go as fast as we can. I mean, I think there was uniform shock when we first heard it. I think when I first heard it,
Dominion has machines in Alaska. Dominion has machines in Utah, both of which went heavily in favor of Trump. Why? Why? By the way, Dominion has machines in, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 states. So 24%, less than 1/4 of the country uses Dominion machines, but somehow George Soros has masterminded this election win.
I didn't believe it until Sydney showed me the documents. And in fact, I feel kind of stupid, and you all should, because all you had to do is go online and find out that Smartmatic is owned by
That's where we get information from, the internets.
Venezuelans close to Chavez. You can Google it. Well, unless they take it down. I preserved it, so you can find it.
Oh,
Not,
okay.
you know, and by the way, the Coomer character
The head of security who keeps butt dialing people his password, he preserved it.
who is close to Antifa took
Hold on. We'll just pause it here for a second.
Venezuelans close to Chavez.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present your elite strike force.
You can Google it. Well, unless they take it down. I preserved it, so you can find it. Not, you know, and by the way, the Coomer character, who is close to
The guy on the elite strike force now has hair dye all the way down to his jowls.
Antifa, took off all of his social media. But we kept it.
I'm laughing so hard I'm red.
We've got it. The man is a vicious.
Taco Dan, your is 2 words. You have to use the sky comma in the middle. You are. Y-O-U. Okay. Hashtag.
This man. He wrote horrible
Yes, you
things
do,
about
Chris.
the president. He is completely biased. He's completely warped. And he specifically says that they're going to fix this election. I don't know what you need to wake you up to do your job
Hard evidence.
and inform the American people, whether you like it or not, of the things they need to know. This is real. It is not made up. It is not. There's nobody here that engages in fantasies. I've tried 100 cases.
We all saw Borat.
I prosecuted some of the most dangerous criminals in the world. I know crimes. I can smell them.
He knows crimes. Headline, Rudy Giuliani. I know crimes.
You don't have to smell this one. I can prove it to you 18 different ways.
It's as clear as the hair dye on my face.
I can prove to you that he won Pennsylvania by 300,000 votes. I can prove to you that he won Michigan by probably 50,000 votes. When I went to bed on election night, he was ahead in all those states, every single one of those states.
Right.
How is it they all turned around?
Because they counted the votes. How is this difficult for the guy who knows crime?
Every single one of them turned around. Or is it more consistent that there was a plan to turn them around? And since
Yeah, it was called the election. That was the plan. Everybody go and vote for who you like, and more people vote for Biden, and Biden wins. That's how the plan works. It's genius.
there are witnesses who say there was a plan to turn them around, and it kind of begs credulity to say that it all happened in every single state. My goodness, this is how you win cases in a courtroom.
Wow, okay. So I'm rooting for the right side originally, but now the left side is catching up big time. Look at that. So who's going to win the race to the second chin?
Sir, is that your
Oh no! Oh, he just wiped away left side. Dude, I just laid money down in Vegas.
Sir, is it your goal here to pressure officials and lawmakers in these battleground states to block or delay certification so the GOP can pick their own electors? Is that the end game here?
Our goal here is to go around the iron curtain of censorship that, what publication are you with?
CNN.
They're laughing at
go
CNN.
around,
What? I couldn't even understand the question.
Our goal here is to
Hold on, let's go back.
Is it your goal here to pressure officials and lawmakers in these battleground states to block or delay certification
Is your goal here to something about officials in the battleground states to delay the certification of the election?
so the GOP can pick their own electors? Is that the end game here?
So that the legislatures can pick their own electors.
Our goal here is to go around the iron curtain of censorship that, what publication are you with?
CNN.
And unfortunately, CNN is the only publication that's available to the American people. So he's got a good point there. The iron curtain of censorship. they all laughed because she asked a reasonable question.
It's to go around the outrageous
It does have a closed captioning option.
iron curtain of censorship and get facts to the American people that if you were a fair and honest network, you'd have been reporting for the last 2 weeks. These are
They have been reporting for the last 2 weeks.
facts. These are things that actually happened. These people really wrote these affidavits.
Yeah, okay. So writing the affidavit and the thing that the affidavit claims actually happening are two different things.
These affidavits are really part of the public record. You're concealing them, you're covering them up, and our role here is to do your job because you don't do it.
Mr. Mayor,
Chanel?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. And to
Oh, hold on. It's Chanel from OAN.
Ms. Cowell as well. Where is our FBI? And have they expressed any interest whatsoever?
Where is our FBI is the question. And have they expressed any? So Rudy looks up there because that's where the FBI comes from. Everybody knows that. Up is down, down.
In looking into allegations of voter fraud and election fraud that you have
Oh, he's checking under the podium. Look at the microwave because that's how they see you.
pointed out in these 6 states.
Come on, you have to have a little humor.
We have
That is very little humor. Point for Rudy.
witnesses who have
FBI in the sky, says Lizzie. That's what the I stands for.
actually reported
Where are you, FBI?
and nothing's happened as a result of it.
I don't know where the FBI has been for the last 3 years.
What,
I have no idea where the FBI has been for the last 4 years. Explain to me how the FBI concealed a
Well, they just arrested a whole group of guys who were trying to assassinate the governor of Michigan. So, they're somewhere.
memo in the hand of Brennan to Obama saying that Hillary basically made up the Russian collusion plot. They withheld that for 4 years and cost our country $40 million and 2 impeachment, one attempted, one actual, and then an acquittal proceeding. I don't know where they've been.
Were there 2 impeachment hearings? Did I miss that? Tell me I'm not going nuts, guys. There was 1 impeachment.
I don't know where they were on the
Oh, maybe he's trying to say on 2 counts. I don't know.
hard drive. They got it 10 months ago.
Mr. Mayor,
There are clear crimes revealed on it.
Okay, so who had Hunter Biden's laptop on the bingo card?
Do anything with that. I don't know where they are now. Our country has had its ballots counted, calculated, and manipulated in a foreign country with a company controlled by friends of an enemy of the United States. What do we have to do to get the FBI to wake
Wait, George Soros is an enemy of the United States now? Or is it Hugo now? I can't even keep track of the conspiracy theories anymore.
up? Maybe we need a new agency to protect us. I have no idea.
Taco Dan, who's Baldy Kevin?
If I may speak for just a minute, in terms of the level of corruption we are looking at here, we have no idea how many Republican or Democratic candidates in any state across the country paid to have the system rigged to work for them. These people didn't do this.
What did she just say?
Corruption.
By friends of an enemy of the United States. What do we have to do to get the FBI to wake up? Maybe we need a new
Have crimes.
agency to
It's called probable cause.
protect us. I have no idea.
Rudy Giuliani, former prosecuting attorney Rudy Giuliani, says maybe we need a new FBI to protect us.
If I may speak for just a minute, in terms of the level of corruption,
She doesn't even need a mic. That's how piercing her voice is.
we are looking at here, we have no idea how many Republican or Democratic candidates in any state across the country paid to have the system rigged to work for them. These people didn't do this just to take control. They make one heck of a lot of money off of it. Think about the global interests behind.
So the Dominion software system is accepting cash in order to fix the election for Democrats or Republicans to aid George Soros, one of the richest men on the planet already. Is that?
Behind your own news organizations. Think about the pressure being brought to bear from the social media companies to shut down free speech on any challenge to the election. This is a massive, well-funded, coordinated effort to deprive we the people of the United States of our most fundamental right under the Constitution to preserve this republic that we all cherish. It is of the greatest concern.
That she just said that what she's doing, the press conference, is an attempt to circumvent the Constitution and deprive the American people of their most fundamental right. She just said that. Can she hear herself when she talks, or is it the wig covering?
It is the 1775 of our generation and beyond.
Sydney, speaking
Yes.
of our votes being held and processed, tabulated overseas.
It is of the greatest concern. It is the 1775 of our generation and beyond.
Sydney, speaking
Yes.
of our votes being held and processed, tabulated overseas.
Again, she's referring to the revolution, which is where we're going to take back our country. This is right now, America is a very crowded theater.
There's reports that there was a piece of hardware, possibly a server, picked up in Germany. Is that true, and is it related to this?
That is true. It is somehow related to this, but I do not know whether good guys got it or bad guys got
So we
it.
don't know who picked it up.
Okay, so yesterday OAN reported that there was a server in Germany that had the actual votes, and that Trump won the election with 410 electoral college votes, and that the U.S. Army, had that server. The U.S. Army had to actually release an official press statement yesterday saying, no, that is not true. It is all nonsense. The U.S. Army had to say that. But this is what they believe. Sidney Powell just said, the attorney for Trump just said, yes, that's true.
Reports that there was a piece of hardware, possibly a server, picked up in Germany. Is that true, and is it related to this?
That is true. It is somehow related to this, but I do not know whether good guys got it or bad guys got
So we
it.
don't know who picked it up.
Why are
Cindy,
you,
I have a
why are you
question
not
on- Cindy,
requesting a
this is,
recount in Wisconsin or the counties that use Dominion systems?
I can only hear one person at the time. I'm going to take the one with the hands raised.
I'm with Just the News. With
Yes.
John Solomon's outlet.
Oh, she's with Just the News. That's John Solomon's outfit. John Solomon's an absolute crackpot who feeds disinformation from Ukraine and Russia into the United States. Fox News just got rid of him. Just shit-canned John Solomon. That's how bad John Solomon is. But this is Just the News. Just the News also released an article saying that the number of votes rejected in Pennsylvania was only 0.03% when it should be more like 1 to 2%. They had a spreadsheet attached which had no title, just listed the counties in Pennsylvania, had no bearing on the actual numbers, just filled in with numbers, random numbers. I tried to verify any numbers. I picked about 30 numbers off that spreadsheet, could not verify one of them. And then, of course, Trump ends up retweeting that. That's Just the News. That's who's about to ask this question.
So question for you, Sydney. First, on the issue of the machines, do you plan to have, are you seeking a court order to either seize or subpoena or just to gain access to any of these machines in any of these contested districts? Have you begun that process? And when can we expect a timeline on that? And then for you, Mr. Mayor, you mentioned in Wisconsin and in Michigan these issues of overvoting. Where can we learn more about this? You're saying 150, 200%?
Up to 350% in some places.
Where would we get access to that data? And then to what extent were those people who showed up to vote in person? Because in Michigan, for example, they did allow same-day registration.
Yes, well, the same-day registration causes problems with the vote signature and the registration itself. That's a whole different system that makes it impossible, really, to validate the signature. I mean,
that is not true. That you could absolutely validate a signature. Those people have ID. You can't just show up and register and just say, this is who I am, without any ID in Michigan. In Michigan, they do have to have voter ID. That's the law.
One person could sign the same name. I mean, I could sign John Smith. I could sign Kay Smith. I could sign, on both things and run 50 ballots that way. And we've got
and flip the election? No.
Got some evidence of that being done as well. Rudy, do you want to speak to the other part of it?
Sure.
It'd be lovely to see that evidence.
We have now 3 overvote analysis is done. 1 for Pennsylvania, 1 for Michigan, and 1 for Wisconsin. We're in the process. Oh, I'm sorry, Georgia. We're in the process of doing the others. I'll check to see if it's appropriate for us to make it public.
Well,
I imagine it is, but you could actually do
it. It's already public.
Yeah.
You could do it yourself.
A lot of the analysis comes from the real-time data that came through to the news medias the night and following the election. And some entrepreneurs out there have started crunching data themselves, in addition to multiple experts who could easily recognize, with the mathematical brain that I do not have, the beyond explicable deviations to the point of mathematical impossibility that 186,000
No, David, the new FBI is going to be called FBI again.
votes come in at once.
We already have the hats printed up, so we can't change it. I'm sorry.
All for Joe Biden. That's like flipping a coin 186,000 times and it lands on heads every time. That does not happen.
That, my friend, is a two-headed coin, is what that is.
There is no reasonable explanation for the upshoots, the straight lines up. I'm not even talking about an angle. I'm talking about some massive straight lines up in the vote.
There's absolutely 100% a reasonable and legal explanation for those straight lines. It's when a precinct reports the numbers. How is this confusing? How can they honestly start calling Bedford's Law on any of this?
Vote tallies in the middle of the night after they've supposedly stopped counting, and that's when...
Right. You stop counting and then you send in your totals. What planet is this?
When the Dominion operators went in and injected votes and changed the whole system. And it affects votes around the country, around the world, and all kinds of massive interests of globalists, dictators, corporations, you name it. Everybody's against us except President Trump and we the people of the United States of America.
You've spoken of unleashing the Kraken. Is the country ready for this? I mean, Americans should be astonished at what you're saying here today. Is the country on the verge of an electoral breakdown?
We've already had it. We have already had that electoral breakdown. But the Constitution, as Jenna explains, has provisions in it for how you fix this. And there should never be another election conducted in this country. I don't care if it's for local dog catcher.
Eric says the commentary dude is an idiot. All right. My name is right there, by the way. If you want to just use my name instead of commentary dude, it's right there on the screen for you. But if commentary dude is what you want to call, that's fine. But it's there twice. And then in the scroll, there it is. The Kevinly Father, Kevinly Father, Kevinly. That's 3 times in the scroll. It might be in there more. I don't know. But you're welcome to type longer, commentary dude. But I'm the idiot.
Using a Dominion machine and Smartmatic software. We have got to have an American company
which is only used in 12 states.
That uses paper ballots that we can all verify so every one of us can see that our...
My God, she's one of the Democrats. Because they've been trying to get that passed.
Our vote is our vote.
Why are you not requesting recounts in Wisconsin counties that use Dominion software? You're requesting recounts in 2 counties that don't use the software at all.
That's an excellent point. The counties that they're asking for recounts in Wisconsin do not use Dominion software. And there are counties... wait, I had that figure. Dominion is... There's no Dominion software in Wisconsin. So they're asking for recounts... And wait, or is there? Why is, let's see, hold on. Customers in 24 of the top 10, 9 of the top 20 counties. No, okay, so there are some machines in Wisconsin according to the map from Dominion itself. But I did read that earlier that the counties in Wisconsin that using Dominion software do not have, are not being recounted. You know, the big problem, the George Soros thing that's happening with Hugo Chavez, those are not the ones being counted.
This case is not only about, remember, this case did...
Helen Hazelwood, if you live in 5 states, you can't go vote in person. And those states, including Oregon, Washington, and Colorado, have been voting in person for almost 20, or by mail in almost 20 years, and there's very little voter fraud. So they've done studies on this. I mean, we've been doing this for a while.
Begin with
Robert. This dude has a name, and it's right there for you. It's right there. See the name Kevin? That's me. Everyone is insulting me and can't figure out what my name is. Oh my God, I love this. Some Trumper is rebroadcasting us on Facebook right now. You need to check your facts. We're actually watching it. That's what we're doing. We're actually checking facts right now. Robert White.
Dominion. This case began, and this case can be proven the old-fashioned way. It can be proven based on just good old-fashioned Democratic tactics that go back to Mayor Daley in the 1960s, when he held the vote back in Chicago so that he could elect John F. Kennedy. Or as recently as last year, when they held the vote back in Palm Beach County and Broward County in order to see if they could steal that election for the Senate and governor, and then got caught manufacturing ballots.
Hold on, I'm really going to freak the Trumpers out. Let's see how long before they start getting homophobic. There we go.
Ballots. Democrats have been doing this for years on a small scale. When they passed a
Robert White says Kevin is a moron. So he got my name. Congratulations, Robert. You get a ding.
The mail-in voter statute, which all of a sudden multiplied by 10 times the number of mail-in votes, they realized they could have a field day. They could do precisely what Jimmy Carter and Secretary Baker warned us about. All you have to do is own an election board, and you can get away with it. And unlike what Sydney is talking about, where you could have a paper trail.
Again, that's from 2005. Since then, Jimmy Carter has come out and said, nope, mail-in ballot, 100%. I'm behind it.
A paper ballot. I tried to point out to you, the minute that you separate the outer envelope from the ballot, you can no longer trace it.
Right. Because our votes are secret in America. I don't have to tell you whom I voted for. For whom I voted. I'm sorry. I don't want anybody saying like, that commentary dude is an idiot. He used whom and then ended the sentence with a preposition. Ah, what a moron. Ah, mega.
Which is why the count, whatever the count in Georgia today is totally ridiculous.
Robert says a ding from the ding dong. I love that. I'm giving you another ding.
They're counting the same fraudulent ballots one more time.
I think, guys, I think this is my favorite broadcast we've ever done. This is just the content and then what we've drawn into the room. I cannot be happier right now.
Mr. Mayor,
And we're still very close.
Mr. Mayor, so far, no single court has found evidence of fraud. That's
Oh, I love it when the Brits get involved. Mr. Giuliani, so far, not a single court has found evidence of fraud.
got to be disappointing for you and the president. How
It's got to be disappointing for you and the president.
would you describe his mood at the moment? And do you and
Can you describe his mood at the moment?
him still genuinely believe you can overturn this election?
And do you genuinely believe you can overturn this
Or is
election?
it about something bigger for you?
Or is it about something bigger than you?
Well, it is about something. Let's go from the big picture to the smaller picture. The most important thing here is that this has been a massive attack on the integrity of the voting system in the greatest democracy on earth. The people who did this have committed one of the worst crimes that I've ever...
Robert, they've lost 25 cases. 25 cases already. It could be higher. Someone said 29 earlier. I don't know. I haven't fact-checked it because I've been broadcasting. As of this morning, they had lost 25 cases in court. So, like, use Google or something, Robert.
that I've ever seen or observed. One of the things we're the most proud of in this country is that we've been such a long-standing democracy based on the right to vote. They have trashed the right to vote.
And they're literally trying to disqualify the right to vote right now.
They've dishonored the right to vote. They've destroyed the right to vote in their greed for power and money. And there's no doubt about it. This was not an individual idea of 10 or 12 Democrat bosses. This is a plan. You would have to be a fool not to realize that. They do the same thing in exactly the same way in 10 big Democrat-controlled, in most cases, crooked city. And when I say crooked city, go look at how many of their officials have gone to jail in the last 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 years that they have dominated and destroyed those cities. They picked the places where they could get away with it.
Robert, go to Philadelphia court system, and you can look. Don't use Google. Go right to the court system, and you can pull up the paperwork from the actual court cases. They've lost 25 of them.
Pick the places where, whether or not Republicans testified to something, judges would just dismiss it, because judges are appointed politically, and too many of them are.
Sometimes judges are appointed politically, and sometimes judges are voted into office. How does he not know this? How does the former district attorney not know this?
Hacks. They picked places where they could get a sheriff that refused to enforce a court order. When we got a court order that we could be 10 feet closer, our representatives were told, if you try to do it...
Robert obviously has a comprehension issue of some kind. I said someone said it was 29. I saw 25 this morning. When I started the broadcast, the last I'd heard it was 25. I said someone said it was 29. It's somewhere in between then. Robert, how can I say this? If you're someone who goes to the smaller classes in school, or if you have someone helping you at your job or something, I don't want to make fun of you. So I appreciate you being in here, and I appreciate your comments. But it is somewhere between 25 and 29. If you have any other questions, please let us know. And I think it's great that you're able to type, and I love that you're interactive. I really do.
I'll arrest you.
You're painting a portrait of a national conspiracy, suggesting that Joe Biden was actually part of that.
Part one, it began as a national conspiracy, clearly. that evidence emerged very, very quickly. The minute I saw that it was the same thing in 10 states, just using logic, I said this can't be an accident. And then what I was surprised about is the dimension of it. I mean, not inspecting almost 700,000 ballots is astounding.
Are you suggesting that Joe Biden was part of that conspiracy? I just wonder what your evidence is.
Honestly, I don't know what Joe Biden is aware of or not aware of. And I mean that as a lawyer, not trying to be cute. I've watched him. I've observed him. I honestly don't know how much he's aware. I don't know how much he decides and how much things are decided for him. So
Let me address one other thing to your question.
I just want to fact check myself here. I'm looking at this map of Dominion voting, and there's actually two maps, and one of them has flashing icons. I'll show it to you. One of them has flashing icons on 12 different states. That's what I saw originally. This could be 27 states. It's hard to say. So there may be Dominion voting machines in 27 states. I think that's what this map is trying to tell us. And if you highlight one of the circles, if you click on it, it tells you more information. Democracy Suite serves 62 counties with all mail and all in-person voting solutions in Colorado. So I think I said earlier that they're in 12 states and Puerto Rico. It appears to be more than that, just to make sure that that was done. And again, I fact-checked myself.
About the process, your question is fundamentally flawed when you're asking where is the evidence. You clearly don't understand the legal process. What we have asked for in the court is to not have the certification of false results. And so to say, hold on a minute, we have evidence that we will present to the court. We haven't had the opportunity yet to present.
Okay, so that answers the question from CNN that they all scoffed at a couple of minutes ago. They are trying to delay the certification of states. That's what they're trying to do. That's what she's saying. And she's always, how does somebody have resting pause face at all times? How does, just every time I've paused on her, it's not pretty.
That to the court. We're giving
Let's try it
you
again. See? It's just, I mean, in and of herself, she's a discount Drew Barrymore, and that's fine. She could be objectively seen by many people as pretty. And again, I don't like to get into the looks. I don't want to, we don't want to stoop to that level. But I'm astounded by her ability. Let's give her, I'm rooting for her here.
Overview and a preview.
Just gonna stop.
Of what we've discovered.
Just stop.
But no.
Right? Again, but I don't know how she does it.
No court yet.
Maybe her face moves so quickly that the cameras are not capable of pausing on one where she looks nice. I don't know. Again, I don't want to get into this.
We've had that opportunity. So when we have fraud allegations pending. So what we've asked for are temporary restraining orders or injunctions to not certify false results. We're very happy that Michigan, the reason we dismissed that lawsuit today is because the Michigan county in Wayne County, they're not going to certify that because 71% of counties have inconsistent data.
Wait. For 75%. So is Wayne County now not certifying? Because they've said this now 3 times. And the last we heard, they were saying we're not going to certify, and then they certified. Has Wayne County flip-flopped again?
No person in this room or in this country should want states to rush through and coronate a president with false results. We
don't coronate president. In fact, you don't coronate a president. That's not the way coronations work.
To make sure that the results are accurate, that's what we will prove.
Two more questions.
The Secretary of State says that can't actually happen, that those votes can't be rescinded, and that the certification in Michigan currently stands.
The Secretary of State where?
In Michigan. Yeah, well, there are problems in Michigan.
Oh, okay, so they're answering that question right now.
Sure, that the results are accurate, that's what we will prove.
Two more questions.
The Secretary of State says that can't actually happen, that those votes can't be rescinded, and that the certification in Michigan currently stands.
The Secretary of State where?
In Michigan. Yeah, well, there are problems in Michigan.
Well, there are problems in Michigan. I guess the reporter just said that the Secretary of State has said, no, you can't uncertify your certification. That's not something that's part of the law, and that's a problem. And now Sidney Powell saying, yeah, there are problems in Michigan. Yeah, that it's illegal to take back your vote.
Follow the money.
Follow the political party, man. I mean,
Well, follow the money, but then also follow the law. That's one of the law and order things we do.
actually seriously going to want me to take seriously the Secretary of State of Michigan?
Yes. Who was voted in by the people of Michigan? Yes, you take the Secretary of State of Michigan seriously because they actually have an official position in this, which you do not.
When the Secretary of State of Michigan never bothered to find out that the votes in her state were being counted in Germany by a Venezuelan company, and you want me to take her seriously or him seriously? I mean, I was in government.
Fun fact, in Michigan, 65 of 83 counties have chosen the democracy suite. No explanation for the other counties.
If I were the governor of that state, I'd fire everybody that was involved in this election. They didn't come and tell me that my state was going to be embarrassed, made a fool of, because I'm...
They have paper ballots. They have paper ballots, and they can certify everything.
Sending my votes of people in Michigan over to Germany to be counted by a company that is owned by people who are allies of Maduro and Chavez.
Chavez.
By the way,
there it is again, the allies of Chavez.
Carolyn Maloney, who wrote that, is my congresswoman. A Democrat pointed that out. They didn't do the darndest bit of due diligence. If you bought a $10 million company, you would have done more due diligence than that. Maybe they're incompetent, or maybe they didn't want to know. But you're not going to have me take seriously anything that comes from anyone involved in the election the way it was conducted in Michigan.
But you guys are saying...
Well, since they're the Secretary of State of Michigan, you really ought to take them seriously. By the way, your hair is melting down your face. Guy who won't take the Secretary of State seriously. Seriously.
Those votes have been rescinded. They haven't.
Chavez has only been dead for 7 years, so he might not have heard that yet.
Secretary of State there says that they can't.
When did Chavez die? Feels like 2013 in my head.
The Secretary of State can say whatever she wants to say. Of course she's going to say that. She's a Democrat. She could also credit the affidavits of the two people and say that the board is tied and therefore the vote hasn't been certified. So because she's a Democrat, she's saying that. Do you think she has any credibility, having run the kind of election they ran in Michigan? You think anyone in that government has credibility after using a machine? And
okay, Chavez did die in 2013. I'm giving myself a ding for that. By the way, for everyone criticizing me for being bald, I'm wearing a headband right now. I have, if you've been in our chat room before, you'll know that I have way too much hair right now. So this is a headband. You just can't see it on the TVs. Did people think that this was like I was bald, right? This was my haircut.
Fooling their citizens? There can't be a person in Michigan who thought their vote was being sent outside the United States so somebody could play with it. I mean, it's disgraceful what the government...
They have paper ballots. Nobody was thinking that.
...of Michigan did to its citizens. Absolutely disgraceful.
Mr. Mayor.
Last question.
Mr. Mayor, you have alleged...
Just to go back to the servers, are you going to be able to get your hands on the voting machines or the servers, and are you going to be able to see what, when, where, how?
We're not. We are limited in what we can do. We're not the FBI. We're not the government. We don't have that kind of subpoena power. We don't have the power to just go subpoena anything we want. The government does. We would have to subpoena it in line with a case. Our first case, we're asking for that authority in Pennsylvania and in Michigan. But you have to get that authority from the court. We're private citizens. We're not the government. If I were the government, like I used to be, there'd probably be a lot of people arrested by now. Because there's plenty of probable cause. Plenty of probable cause.
All right, thank you, everybody.
We'll take...
You alleged that Donald Trump has won by a landslide. We've seen that a lot of your lawsuits and in fact lawyers have been kind of dropping like flies. What do you say to those people who call this a Russiagate 2.0 just on the other side? Why didn't this, and also why didn't this happen?
What fake network do you come from?
I don't have a promo fake network. In fact, I am completely independent, have no one above my head.
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all,
We just asked an independent reporter what fake network she came from. She's a freelancer.
our cases haven't been dismissed.
Let's go back to the question.
Donald Trump has won by
Well, arrested by now. Because there's plenty of probable cause. Plenty of probable cause.
Hey, Rita, thanks for the information that Trump is going to be president for 4 more years. Where are you watching this? What Facebook page picked up this feed?
No. Where? We'll take.
you alleged that Donald Trump has won by a landslide. We've seen that a lot of your lawsuits and in fact lawyers have been kind of dropping like flies. What do you say to those people who call this a Russiagate 2.0 just on the other side? Why didn't this, and also why didn't this happen?
Where?
Okay, so you've lost a bunch of lawsuits. Your lawyers are dropping like flies. But as we know from the vice presidential debate, flies can linger. Things end up on your head, all kinds of strange things around your face, and you don't know what's going to happen.
What fake network do you come from?
I don't have a promo fake network. In fact, I am completely independent, have no one above my head.
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, our cases.
I just want to show you something. This is Michigan right here. This is a map of Michigan and the different voting machines that they use. This dark blue here, all this dark blue, this is all Dominion. This is all Dominion. Trump dominated in these counties. Somehow, Dominion forgot to change all of these dark blue counties. Somehow the folks in Germany don't have their shit together, and they left all of these counties for Trump. I don't know how, but that's what happened officially.
Haven't been dismissed. We only have.
Over 20.
Look at the plaintiffs who were involved in this.
It's not our case, ma'am.
Many lawyers.
Don't lie to people.
I'm saying, what do you say to
Ma'am, you are lying.
I think that we
You're lying. You're lying.
Have
Well, continue to lie. I'm not going
I went way over their head.
Ma'am.
What do you say to those who told this?
Okay. Let me answer the question. Let me answer the question. The answer to the question is.
What's that? Let me.
You're lying. Well, continue to lie. I'm not going
I went way over their head.
Ma'am.
Some of those suits may have been brought by other parties. They're all pro-Trump. Different GOP organizations have brought suit. Different individuals have brought suit. But she is correct that it is over 20 cases have been dropped. Plus, she is correct that lawyers representing Trump and the Trump campaign have dropped out of representing him.
Ma'am.
Entire law firms have.
What do you say to those who told this?
Okay. Let me answer the question. Let me answer the question. The answer to the question.
What was that? What's that? Let me answer. Did he just break for a moment?
Question is.
I think he was trying to make fun of her by doing a retard voice and thought better of it 3 words in.
We don't have a lot of lawsuits. We only have 3. Our lawsuits have not been dropped all over the place.
Go away because they were afraid.
Okay. Well, you're a totally discourteous person. I'm going to finish my answer. So.
I'm actually really nice.
I'm going to finish my answer. The fact is we have very, very few lawsuits. The lawsuits you're talking about have been brought.
He said, you're a totally discourteous person. And she said, I'm actually really nice.
By private individuals and groups. Most of them were dismissed for lack of standing. Probably correctly, because they were brought before the election took place. The election is now over. The only lawsuit we have withdrawn is the one where we got the relief that we wanted, and that's the one in Michigan. We also have another lawsuit in Michigan that will accomplish the other objectives of what we want to do in Michigan. So it's silly to have 2 competing lawsuits. The only lawyer that left a case left because he was threatened. His family was threatened. His children were threatened. And so was the other lawyer. Yeah, that's true.
Here's the problem, Joseph. There's no smoke.
We have a little difficulty getting lawyers because our lawyers get threatened with being killed because of the ridiculous way in which you cover this and the ridiculous way in which you cover.
You haven't seen how I've covered this. No,
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about everybody, but I get a pretty good sense from the way you handle yourself, how you cover it. All right, we're finished with you now. One last question. One last question from a. One last question.
Can you give us the actual?
One last question.
Because the,
One last question from a reasonable civil person. Yeah, you are not. Yes.
I'm not a reasonable person?
No, her. She isn't.
Okay, all right.
Well, we'll find out.
I'm from the Daily Caller, for the record.
Oh, there we go.
If the
Great.
courts don't let you present
Now it's a reporter from the Daily Caller, which is a right-wing organization that has a publication. And Tucker Carlson, last time I looked, he was the editor-in-chief. I don't know if he still is.
these cases, like Jenna just said, will you
Joseph, sudden changes overnight. Yeah, it's not. There's no statistical anomalies at all. That's exactly what should happen. You count the provisional ballots, you count the absentee ballots, you count the mail-in votes. Those are the absentee ballots. And when you're done counting, you report those figures. Often that's in the middle of the night, especially in larger counties. There's absolutely zero statistical anomalies in this election.
give the entire bulk of the evidence to the media to review?
And often, yes, there are often more votes than voters, Joseph. That is a very good point. That is why Trump lost, because even though he had voters for Trump, you have to have more voters. So you're correct, Joseph.
And if so, when? Are you going to drag this thing out like the Hunter Biden hard drive again?
We're not going to drag it out. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Wow, that was almost a harsh question from Daily Caller. Let's listen.
Don't let you present these cases like Jenna just said. Will you give the entire bulk of the evidence to the media to review?
So he's asking, will you give the evidence to the media, or are you going to drag this thing out like the Hunter Biden laptop? That is a slap in the face. And he's going to go like, take this, Rudy Giuliani. Oh, what the hell is this black stuff? Seriously, dude, this is... What? When you get an unidentified liquid on your hand from Rudy Giuliani, don't sniff it. Just wash it.
And if so, when? Are you going to drag this thing out like the Hunter Biden hard drive again?
We're not going to drag it out. I mean, it's ridiculous for you to say we're dragging it out. Al Gore had a lot more time than we've had, and we've had 2 weeks to investigate. So that's also completely...
The question's about the future?
Unfair to say we're dragging it out. Also,
he asked, are you going to drag it out? That's what he asked.
If we're going to present things in court, if we present it to you, judges are not going to be very happy with us. And finally, I have to tell you, our witnesses don't want to be exposed to the tender mercies of a vicious press. I have great difficulty getting those witnesses that I did reveal to allow me to do it. They don't trust you. They don't like you. They think you put their lives in jeopardy with the spin that you put on what's going on here and with the unfairness in which you cover it. It's not easy to reveal the things that they tell me.
So the answer is no.
The answer is I can't do it because I can't.
They could very easily release all of the affidavits that they have, redact the names. They could very easily do that. There's nothing stopping them from doing that. There's no laws that say that when you release an affidavit to the press, you have to identify the person. That would be common practice.
I can't put up witnesses.
Come on, follow up with that Daily Caller guy, please. I liked your initial question. Follow up. Why don't you give it to us in redacted form? Just please. That's the go-to here.
His life in jeopardy, or a person who thinks there's life in jeopardy. This woman tells me we have lawyers dropping out of the case. We have lawyers.
No, not all affidavits are public documents.
Is dropping out of the case because they're being threatened with destruction of their careers, destruction of their livelihood, and in some cases, destruction of their lives.
What? Did you guys just see the lady on the far side here? Hold on. What is going on with that? Speaking of skulking, what is happening here? Watch her. We haven't seen her the whole time, and then suddenly this happens.
Jeopardy, or a person who thinks there's life in jeopardy. This woman tells me we have lawyers dropping out of the case. We have lawyers dropping out of the case because they're being threatened with destruction of their careers, destruction of their livelihood, and in some cases, destruction of their lives.
What is that? Whose face is... What? Just off to the side the entire time? And then all of a sudden... Everything about this conference is absolute gold, and I'm so happy that Trump is the president.
comes about because of the hysterical way in which you have covered Donald Trump and his administration. But we're going to change all that. We're going to go to court. We're going to prove it in court. I would love to release all the information that I have. I would love to give it to you all.
Yeah.
Except most of you wouldn't cover it.
No. That's not a reason not to release it, because it wouldn't be covered. Give it to us and we will cover it. I promise you that. I will read every page you send my way, Mr. Giuliani.
If you would. And then we'd have half the American people probably informed. The censorship that is...
Oh, that is Joe okay, that's what's her face. They're both lawyers.
Going on in this...
By the way, Trump hired Joe DeGenova and his wife, whose name, if you hadn't have said wife, I would have a name for her in my head, hired them because he watched them on Fox News and he loved them on Fox News, then ended up firing them because when he actually met them, he did not like what they were saying. But he's hired them again for this case. So that's where they are. He's down to the last two lawyers that he previously fired.
Country right now, by big tech and by big...
The White House is doing a briefing! Thank you, Yusuf. Where'd you get that from? Is that from Trump? Is that from Kayleigh? What is that? I'm going to be here all day.
Media is almost as dangerous as the election fraud that we're revealing. Maybe just as dangerous. We're headed to a very bad place. And it is not inappropriate.
Is it Toledo?
That a Venezuelan company counted our votes. Thank you.
Wait a second. A Venezuelan company? I thought it was in Germany and also Spain and Soros? What? What is happening in this country? Hold on. Let me check out the C-SPANs and see if we can ascertain what this presser is about. Let's see. Trump campaign, Michigan governor, White House coronavirus news conference is at 1 p.m. Oh, okay. So the coronavirus is doing a task force. We'll cover that. I haven't heard anything else. If anybody knows anything about about Kayleigh or Trump, let me know. It's a COVID meeting. Okay, good. We'll cover that. So coming up at 4 p.m. Eastern, we'll cover that. So I will try and get some lunch for myself. What's not inappropriate? See if anything else happens here. I'm really amazed that nobody came up with DeGenova's wife's name. She does have a name, people. I'm very disappointed in you.
And with that, the news conference and question and answer period with the president's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, and senior advisor legally is Jenna Ellis. But you saw some other attorneys there. I want to bring in our own Fox News contributor, Andy McCarthy.
Okay.
And Andy, that was a lot to take in. You saw a case laid out, but as an opening statement, as Jenna Ellis said. And part of that
of course her name is Karen.
Came from Rudy Giuliani and part came from Sidney Powell. What did you hear?
And Jenna Ellis.
What do you think is coming?
Well, I think a lot of what they said, Harris, has actually been in the pleadings that have been filed in court. They acknowledge
Victoria Tensing. Thank you, Marcy.
That. I think the problem they're going to have is they spent the better part of 90 minutes saying they've put all this together and now they're going to bring it to court and prove it. But just this morning, they dropped a case in Michigan. Just over the weekend, they dropped charges in Pennsylvania, which were based on a lot of the allegations that they made today. And, you know, when they said, for example, that they dropped the case in Michigan this morning because they already accomplished the relief they were trying to seek, they didn't. You know, in point of fact, the canvassers, the Republican canvassers in Wayne County, who now say they want to rescind their certification of the ballots there, actually can't rescind them. There's no procedure in Michigan law for them to do that. They've already voted to certify. And the reason for pointing this out is twofold. Number one, the anomaly of making allegations and saying you need to get to court to prove them while you're dropping court cases, number one. And number two, this is moving rapidly. We're talking about states really like beginning next week starting to certify their results. So
Hey, Cindy, thanks for sharing the Breitbart video with us. If you wouldn't mind, what Facebook page are you watching this in? I'm really fascinated by this, and I hope they continue picking up the feeds. We're going to be back at 1 p.m. Pacific. Whoever is sharing this Facebook feed, please share it again. So let's see, it's 12:08 right now, Pacific time. So in less than an hour, we'll be broadcasting again when the White House Coronavirus Task Force conference starts. Now that the elite, what was it? The elite ninja task slick squad of lawyers has ended. Elite strike force. They're striking. Trump White House press briefing in 22 minutes. Yeah. Oh, is that official? Let's see. Did C-SPAN get that going? So here's what I got to do then. Guys, I got to go. I got to get something in my tummy. I got to shower and change, and I'll get back and we'll cover something at some point. Whenever things get going, we'll go live, and I'll put up a YouTube thing in a second here. And we will see you soon. Here's the closing credits.
Kevin, thanks for that.